I request the photographers to sit down after taking the still photographs. Kindly be seated. Thank you. Good morning, friends from the media. आप सबका इस प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में स्वागत है. It's a big day today for all of us at ECI, and I would like to formally welcome you to this press conference to announce the schedule for general elections and some state assemblies. It's my privilege to introduce the Honorable Chief Election Commissioner, Shri Rajiv Kumar Ji, the Honorable Election Commissioner, Shri Ganesh Kumar, and the Honorable Election Commissioner, Dr. Sukhbir Singh Sandhu. Also on the dais today are senior officials who have been a part of Team ECI in the past 2 years and have played a crucial role in the run-up to the general elections. Namely, Senior Deputy Election Commissioners Shri Dharmendra Sharma and Shri Nitesh Vyas. Also DECs Shri Udesh Kumar, Shri Ajay Bhadu, Shri R.K. Gupta and Shri Manoj Sahu. Another crucial team member has been DG IT Srimati Neeta Verma. Also on the dais is our Joint Director Media, Anu Chandak, who is familiar to most of you here. I am B. Narayanan, DG Media for the Commission. The format is as follows. There will be opening remarks by the CEC along with the presentation. We will share the PDF copy of the presentation with all of you after this event is over. The PC is also being live streamed on X along with the slides and live streamed on our YouTube and Facebook. Following this PowerPoint, there will be a question and answer session. When you want to ask a question, raise your hand. Wait for a chance to be called by me to put your question. I will direct the micer to come to you. When it's your turn, introduce yourself and your organization and then ask your question. I request you to be brief and ask only one question at a time. Please keep your mobiles on silent mode. Sir, I request you to deliver your opening remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Narayanan. Good afternoon, friends. My recently joined distinguished colleagues, let me introduce you to them. Shri Ganesh Kumar ji on my right and on your left, and Shri Sukhbir Singh Sandhu ji on my left. Senior officials from Election Commission of India, friends from media, और विभिन्न संचार माध्यमों से जुड़े हुए देश के मतदाता, आप सबको सबसे पहले अभिनंदन, नमस्कार. आप सभी का इस प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में स्वागत है. As you see, our team is now complete. All three of us are here and we are fully prepared. So now our request is to all the voters to get inked. Please, the entire team in the ECI is ready to ink the voters. Please join us. I think this is the most awaited press conference in this part of the year. We address you at a precious moment when we as a nation are set to reiterate our pledge to electoral democracy, when Indians will together express their will once again. This is a historic opportunity for all of us. By the way, this year also marks a pivotal moment in the global landscape of democracies. 2024 is a year of elections across the world. Over 6 nations and people will vote across the hemispheres, across the date lines. However, India's elections have been like a pole star, both for its quantity and quality, and I'll elaborate it in detail in this conference. दुनिया के सबसे बड़े और सबसे जीवंत लोकतंत्र के रूप में भारत पर सभी का ध्यान केंद्रित रहता है. जहां चुनाव एक त्योहार है जिसमें लोकतंत्र के रंग उभरते हैं और देश के सभी हिस्से उसमें समावेश होते हैं. चुनाव का पर्व, देश का गर्व. Let me say in the very beginning that it is our promise to deliver a national election in a manner that we add to our global shine and remain a beacon for electoral democracies across the world. We are committed to give the nation a truly festive democratic environment. Friends, the term of 17th Lok Sabha is due to expire on 16th June 24. The term of legislative assemblies of Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Arunachal, Sikkim are also due to expire in June 24. जम्मू कश्मीर असेंबली में भी चुनाव ड्यू हैं. We in the Commission understand with all humility at our command, that every election is a new test and failure is not an option. The entire election machinery has been trained on all aspects of election management. I had myself personally interacted with over 800 district magistrates across the length and breadth of the country. We have interacted with the SPs, DMs, commissioners, range IGs, political parties, enforcement agencies in Delhi and also while visiting the states. और पूरी स्टेट्स में इन सबके साथ समीक्षा करने के दौरान और उसके बाद हमें ये विश्वास है कि हम एक यादगार, स्वतंत्र, निष्पक्ष चुनाव एक पर्व के रूप में सबकी भागीदारी के साथ सुनिश्चित कराएंगे. बिफोर आई शेयर द शेड्यूल, मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि भौगोलिक, सांस्कृतिक, सामाजिक रूप से विविध इतने बड़े देश में चुनाव कराने के लिए हमने अपने आप को कैसे ओवर द 2 years पीरियड तैयार किया है. दुनिया के सबसे बड़े लोकतंत्र के चुनावों में लॉजिस्टिक्स और मटेरियल प्रबंधन ही अपने आप में एक बहुत बड़ी चुनौती है. तो लेट अस शो यू व्हाट इज द magnitude by which we are doing these elections. We have 97 crore registered voters, more than the combined voters of a few continents put together, America, Europe, Australia, all many put together. Over 10.5 lakh polling stations, and कितने लोग उसको conduct करते हैं? 1.5 crore polling officials and security officials conduct those elections. More than 55 lakh EVMs, 4 lakh vehicles, और अब तक हम क्या कर चुके हैं? 17 जनरल इलेक्शंस टू द पार्लियामेंट, 400 से ज़्यादा असेंबली इलेक्शंस कर चुके हैं. ये इलेक्शन कमीशन का एक लीगेसी है. 16 प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शंस, 16 वाइस प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शंस, a truly gold standard. It's a gold standard in the entire election management. Friends, there is a qualitative leapfrog which Commission is ensuring, which would be shown by the outcomes of the 11 state elections which we have held recently. पिछले 1-1.25 साल के अंदर में 11 इलेक्शंस स्टेट असेंबलीज के देश में हुए हैं. और आज जो हम नए 2024 में जा रहे हैं, तो इस दृढ़ता के साथ जा रहे हैं कि जो उनके आउटकम्स हैं वो आपको दिखा रहे हैं. पहले वो पीसफुल हुए, वायलेंस फ्री हुए. जो इसमें से 1-2 स्टेट में वायलेंस होती थी, वहां भी वायलेंस नहीं हुई. नियर जीरो रूपोल्स, और कैंपेनिंग जो क्लटर है, जो नॉइज है, जो कैंपेन के दौरान होती है पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज की, उसमें भी घटित देखने को मिली. कोर्ट केसेस रिड्यूस हुए, कोर्ट की टिप्पणियां जो अनावश्यक या हमारे ऊपर में होती थी वो कम हुई. सीजर्स बढ़े, और फेक न्यूज़ पर एक एक्शन लेने का जो तरीका था वो बहुत बढ़ा. तो लास्ट 2 years में इसको और रोबस्ट करने के लिए हमने क्या क्या किया है, ये हम आपको आज दिखाएंगे, और उसको कैसे बेहतर करेंगे ये भी दिखाएंगे. हम कहाँ पहुँचना चाहते हैं, इस इलेक्शन को किस तरीके से डिलीवर करना चाहते हैं, ये भी आपको लास्ट स्लाइड में दिखाएंगे. अभी जो इलेक्टरल साइकिल है उसमें हमने कितनी तैयारी की है, ये हम आपको आज शेड्यूल बताने से पहले बताना चाहते हैं. अगर देखा जाए तो इनपुट के रूप में हमारा जो इलेक्टरल रोल है वो प्योर होना चाहिए. ये फाउंडेशन है किसी भी अच्छे चुनाव के लिए. उसमें जिसको होना चाहिए वोटिंग में वो है, और जिसको नहीं होना चाहिए वो नहीं है. हमने इलेक्टरल रोल में बहुत मेहनत की है. इनपुट के तौर में मटेरियल, मैन पावर, टेक्नोलॉजी, ट्रेनिंग, इतनी चीज़ें लगती हैं. प्रोसेस के रूप में जो डिसरप्टिव चैलेंजेस हैं, मसल पावर, मनी पावर, मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन, एमसीसी वायलेशन, और रीचिंग आउट टू द मिसिंग वोटर्स, अर्बन अपैथी, यूथ अपैथी, और ओवरकमिंग ऑपरेशनल चैलेंजेस जिसमें रीचिंग इन इनएक्सेसिबल एरियाज इन दिस वाइड कंट्री, एंड व्हाट आउटकम्स वी वांट, that is what is we will tell you little later also. तो पहला जो इनपुट है ये एक मोज़ेक है जो देश की वोटर्स की इलेक्टर्स की पिक्चर है। क्या दिखाती है ये? इट्स अ वेरी डाइवर्स मोजेक। 96.8 crores are the total electors in the country, of which 49.7 crore are male and 47.1 crore are female. और जो यंग वोटर्स हैं, बहुत मेहनत की हमने पिछले साल में, वो 1.82 करोड़ फर्स्ट टाइम वोटर्स इस बार इन चुनावों में वोट देने के लिए हमारे इलेक्टोरल रोल्स में हैं। और अगर इसको हम 20 से 29 साल के वर्ष में देखें, वो भी तो यंग ही हैं, कोई अभी बड़े तो हुए नहीं हैं, तो 18 से जो 29 हैं वो करीब 21.5 लाख वोटर हैं। 1.80 करोड़ 18 से 19 और 20 से 29 में 19.74 करोड़, यानी 21.5 करोड़ वोटर्स एब्सोल्युटली यंग, जो कि डेमोक्रेसी में भाग लेंगे और अपना फ्यूचर अपने से डिसाइड करेंगे, बिकॉज दे आर द बिगेस्ट स्टेक होल्डर्स in the democracy, because they have a larger time to contribute in the society. अगर हम देखें तो बहुत इंक्लूसिव करने के लिए there are 88.4 lakh persons with disabilities who are part of our voter list. We have made a special effort कि जितने हमारे मतदाता हैं उस तरह के उनको हम अपने इलेक्टोरल रोल में लेके आए। 82 लाख लोग ऐसे हैं जो 85 वर्ष से ऊपर हैं और वो हमारे प्राउड मतदाता हैं। वी फील वेरी प्राउड टू हैव देम विद अस। और उसमें से 2,18,000 लोग देश में 100 वर्ष से अधिक के मतदाता भी हैं जो हमारे इलेक्टोरल रोल में। सो द मोज़ेक इज, ट्रांसजेंडर्स भी हैं 48,000। तो मोज़ेक इज लाइक 18 से 19, 20 से 28, 85 ट्रांसजेंडर्स, पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटीज, एंड इन द एंटायर कंट्री, लेंथ एंड ब्रेड्थ ऑफ द कंट्री। इस रिगरस जो प्रोसीजर है, इसको बनाने में कितनी मेहनत लगती है, ये मैं दिखाना चाहता हूं कि हर स्टेज पे इलेक्टोरल रोल के प्रिपरेशन करते समय पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को इन्वॉल्व किया जाता है, ताकि कोई हमसे ये ना प्रश्न कहे कि आपने अपने से इलेक्टोरल रोल बनाया और हमें बताया भी नहीं। सो व्हेन द इलेक्टोरल रोल प्रिपरेशन स्टार्ट्स, वी मेक ए ड्राफ्ट पब्लिकेशन. We give 2 copies free of cost to the political parties. उसके बाद जितने फॉर्म 6, फॉर्म 7, फॉर्म 8, नया नाम जुड़ने के, डिलीशन के, मॉडिफिकेशन के, मेरा नाम बदल है, घर बदल गया, वो सब की कॉपी हम शेयर करते हैं, उसके मिनट्स बनाते हैं। और इस बार हमने और जोर दिया कि बूथ लेवल एजेंट्स अगर पॉलिटिकल पार्टी हमारे BLOs के साथ लगाना चाहें तो लगाएं। और अक्रॉस द लेंथ एंड ब्रेड्थ ऑफ द कंट्री, ऑल द डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट्स, we are absolutely confident that silently we were working. सब ने पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज के साथ में हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में कम से कम 1, 2, 3 मीटिंग्स की हैं, उनको सारे ड्राफ्ट रोल्स दिखाए हैं, दिखाने के बाद जितने ऑब्जेक्शंस हैं वो उनको पूरा किया है और उसके मिनट्स बना के रखे हैं। फ्रेंड्स, वी आर वेरी कॉन्फिडेंट दैट एंड वी आर conscious that a very solid electoral roll is the foundation stone on any election, and we are ready to go with this. We have also worked on the women voters. Women voters का जो gender ratio है वो बढ़ के अब 948 हो गया, which is again a very healthy sign of women participation increasing in our electoral cycle. राज्य, देश के 12 राज्य ऐसे हैं जहां आज 1000 से ऊपर जेंडर रेशियो है, यानी महिला वोटर्स की संख्या मेल से ज़्यादा है। और जैसे मैंने अभी आपको बताया था कि 1.89 नए वोटर्स हमने जुड़े हैं, उनमें से 18 से 19 में 85 लाख हमारी लड़कियां हैं, फीमेल वोटर्स हैं। सो दे आर गोइंग साइड बाय साइड, एंड दिस इज अगेन ए वेरी हेल्दी साइन that women are also equally participating in our election. और जैसे women participation है, ऐसे ही youth participation is another area which the commission is very conscious and commission is also consistently focusing on. 13 से जो 1.8 करोड़ मैंने आपको बताया, 19 करोड़ वोटर्स 20 से 19, और जिस किसी की भी उम्र 1 जनवरी 2024 को 18 साल नहीं हुई थी, उसका भी नाम हमने एडवांस में एप्लीकेशन में लिया, जो 2024 के किसी भी समय में जिनकी उम्र 18 साल होने वाली है. And you would be happy to note that out of 13.4 lakh advance applications which have come to us, around 5 to 6 lakhs are such who will complete the age of 18 by 1st of April 2024. और वो भी हमारे वोटर उस समय तक बन जाएंगे. यानी the roll would be as much updated on 1st of April कि कोई भी छूटे नहीं. नेशनल आइकन्स को बड़ी संख्या में हमने यूथ को अपने साथ जोड़ने के लिए इस कार्य में लगाया है. हमें विश्वास है कि यूथ न सिर्फ वोट करेंगे बल्कि हमारे एम्बेसडर्स भी बनेंगे. जो इन्फ्लुएंसर्स हैं वो भी हमारे साथ जुड़ेंगे. वो अपने साथ यूथ एक के साथ अपने 10 दोस्तों को भी लेके आएंगे. और इस बार हम कन्विंस्ड हैं अपने डिफरेंट आउटरीच एक्टिविटीज़ की वजह से कि वो हमारे साथ ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा जुड़ेंगे. फ्रेंड्स, जब हम वोटर्स को अपने बूथ पे बुला रहे हैं तो हमारी ये भी ड्यूटी बनती है कि हम अपने बूथ को बहुत अच्छे से उनके लिए तैयार करके रखें. कैसे तैयार करें? हर बूथ पे पीने का पानी होगा, टॉयलेट होगा, मेल एंड फीमेल अलग, साइनेज होगा, पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटी के लिए रैंप होगा, एक व्हील चेयर होगी, हेल्प डेस्क होगी, वोटर फैसिलिटेशन सेंटर होगा और शेड भी होगा, सफिशिएंट लाइट भी होगी. यानी मिनिमम बेसिक फैसिलिटीज वुड बी अवेलेबल एट ऑल द पोलिंग स्टेशंस. और दीज पोलिंग स्टेशंस विल बी सेटअप अक्रॉस द लेंथ एंड ब्रेथ. उत्तर में हिमालय की बर्फीली चोटियां हों या दक्षिण में कन्याकुमारी का समुद्र तट, पश्चिम में राजस्थान के रेगिस्तान से लेके अरुणाचल के जंगल और मेघालय के वेटेस्ट रीजन. इलेक्शन कमीशन देश के हर कोने में प्रजातंत्र को मजबूत बनाने के लिए अपने पोलिंग स्टेशन, अपने पर्सनल को लेके जाएगा. एंड वी विल टेक डेमोक्रेसी टू एवरी कॉर्नर ऑफ द कंट्री. We are sure that we would make it a very overwhelming experience for our voters. And then the voters delight. पोलिंग स्टेशंस इस तरीके के मिलने चाहिए जिसमें ये सभी चीज़ें आपको मिलें. Then how would we ensure that it is also inclusive? Inclusive in the sense 85 प्लस जितने वोटर्स हैं उनके हम घर जाके वोट लेने के लिए तैयार हैं. नॉमिनेशन से पहले सबके घर में हम फॉर्म 12D पहुंचाएंगे. देश के कुछ हिस्से में घर से वोटिंग हो चुकी है असेंबली इलेक्शंस में, कुछ राज्यों में अभी नहीं हुई है. अब इस बार पूरे देश में पहली बार ये व्यवस्था एक साथ लागू होगी कि जो 85 वर्ष से ऊपर के मतदाता हैं, जो पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटी हैं, 40 ईयर्स एंड 40% से ज़्यादा की जिनको डिसेबिलिटी है, वो सब के पास हम फॉर्म पहुंचाएंगे. अगर वो ये ऑप्ट करेंगे कि वो फॉर्म वो बूथ पर नहीं आना चाहते, घर से करना चाहते, तो हम घर में जाएंगे, एक आदमी का वोट लेने घर में जाएंगे. हालांकि हमारा तजुर्बा यह है कि ज़्यादातर लोग उस एज के बूथ पर आना चाहते हैं बिकॉज दे हैव कंसिस्टेंटली बीन पार्ट ऑफ आवर डेमोक्रेसी. उनको वॉलंटियर्स और व्हीलचेयर की सुविधा वहाँ उपलब्ध रहेगी. नाउ जब ये बूथ बनाए तो हमने अपने पर्सनल को, जो टीम्स हैं, उनको बहुत अच्छे से ट्रेन करके तैयार किया है. दे आर सेंटिनल्स ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी. आई मीन हमारे जितने एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं वो सब तैयार रहेंगे इस बात के लिए कि दैट वेयर एवर इट टेक्स दे विल वॉक एन एक्स्ट्रा माइल सो दैट वोटर्स डोंट हैव टू माइल. पहाड़ के बर्फ में भी जाएंगे, जंगल में भी जाएंगे, नदी में भी जाएंगे, घोड़े पर भी जाएंगे, काठ के ब्रिज पर भी जाएंगे, हेलीकॉप्टर से भी जाएंगे, हाथी से भी जाएंगे, बर्फ में भी चलेंगे, म्यूल से भी जाएंगे. सिर्फ हर जगह पहुंचेंगे इसलिए ताकि वोटर अपना वोट दे सकें. मैं इसी क्रम में आगे थोड़ी अर्बन एपैथी की भी बात करूंगा. हम इतनी जब मेहनत करते हैं जाने में, हम देखते हैं जहां घर के नीचे बूथ है वहां पे बहुत सारे लोग वोट देने नहीं आते. ये उनके लिए भी एक उदाहरण है कि वो ये समझें कि वोट देना कितना ज़रूरी है. अगर हम 10 लोगों के लिए, 5 लोगों के लिए बूथ बना के इतनी मेहनत से जा सकते हैं, तो आप घर के नीचे उतर के जो 2 किलोमीटर के रेडियस में आपके पास बूथ है उसमें वोट देने जरूर आएँ. फ्रेंड्स, we are also very conscious about the sustainable elections as our responsibility towards the environment. तो environmentally sustainable elections हों, इसके लिए भी हमने डायरेक्शंस अपने इलेक्शन मशीनरी को दी है। वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट किसी भी पोलिंग स्टेशन पे पोलिंग के बाद में दिखाई नहीं देना चाहिए। आप उसको कलेक्ट करें, डिस्पोजल करें और टीम्स के साथ में send them to various disposal thing. It's part of the material arrangement. मिनिमल यूज़ पेपर का करें, मैक्सिमम हमारी ई बुक्स लागू हैं, आप कभी भी हमारी वेबसाइट पे देख सकते हैं, हर सब्जेक्ट पर ई बुक है। मोर एंड मोर कार्बन फुटप्रिंट्स को हम कम से कम किस तरह से कर सकते हैं, रिसाइकलिंग, more and more less and less paperwork, all that is what is our commitment to the environment. We are also greatly leveraging technology in 3 verticals for the help of the voter, for the help of the election management agencies, machinery, and also for the political parties and candidates. कोई भी वोटर पूरे देश में उसका एपिक नंबर से बूथ कहाँ है, उसका एपिक डाउनलोड करना है। इफ़ ही हैज़ ए मोबाइल नंबर सीडेड, he can download his or her mobile. कोई भी BLO के बारे में कोई जानकारी लेनी है, one can go to the voter helpline app. You can know about what kind of a candidate you have in your constituency who are contesting. So there is an application called Know Your Candidate. तो उस कैंडिडेट की कोई क्रिमिनल बैकग्राउंड तो नहीं है, उसके खिलाफ में केसेस तो नहीं है, उनके क्या असेट्स हैं, क्या लायबिलिटीज़ हैं, ये सारी चीज़ें KYC के एप्लीकेशन में वोटर्स को देखने का अधिकार है, उनको मिलेंगी। और जिस किसी का भी क्रिमिनल रिकॉर्ड है किसी भी कैंडिडेट का, उसको 3 बार न्यूज़पेपर्स में देना पड़ेगा, टीवी में देना पड़ेगा, और पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को भी ये बताना पड़ेगा कि आपको उस कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी में क्रिमिनल कैंडिडेट बैकग्राउंड के खड़ा करना पड़ा, तो बाकी क्यों नहीं मिला। आप बताइए, व्हाट इज द बेसिस ऑफ द selection of a candidate who has a criminal background. Then, in order to clean up the entire system, we want to use the technology with the help of the citizens. Citizens, be please vigilant. So, C-Vigil app में कोई भी शिकायत अगर किसी citizens को, किसी वोटर को करनी है, कहीं पर भी कोई पैसा बांटने का केस है, फ्रीबी बांटने का केस है, एक्सेस कैंपेनिंग का केस है, just take a photo or type text, send it to us. We will capture your longitude and latitude ourselves. आप कहाँ पर खड़े हैं ये हम अपने से आपकी मोबाइल की लोकेशन से समझ लेंगे और आपको 100 मिनट के अंदर अपनी टीम भेजकर जो आपकी शिकायत है उसका निराकरण हम आपको करने देंगे। फ्रेंड्स, इस सारी चीज़ को करने में हमारे सामने कुछ चैलेंजेस भी हैं। मैं आज आपके सामने उन चैलेंजेस की भी चर्चा करना चाहता हूँ और ये भी बताना चाहता हूं कि इसको हम कैसे ठीक करेंगे। तो मेनली 4 चैलेंजेस हमारे पास हैं, 4 M's: मसिल, मनी, मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन एंड MCC वायलेशंस। एसेंशियली 4 किस्म के ब्रॉड जो हमारे प्रोसेस हैं और इसी के संदर्भ में पूरा जो प्रोसेस अब आज से शुरू होगा और जब तक चुनाव खत्म होगा तो इलेक्शन कमीशन का अधिकांश समय इन्हीं 4 चीज़ों में लगने वाला है कि हाउ टू कंट्रोल मसिल पावर, हाउ टू कंट्रोल मनी पावर, how to control the menace of misinformation, and how to control the violations which are done or at least to be done under MCC. So coming to the muscle power को control करने के लिए adequate number of CAPF would be deployed. 24/7 एक नया प्रयोग हम इस बार कर रहे हैं। We are establishing, हम बिल्कुल डिटरमिन्ड हैं इस बार मसिल पावर को कम करने के लिए। चुनावों में हिंसा का कोई स्थान होना नहीं चाहिए और ब्लड बाथ बिल्कुल नहीं होना चाहिए। जहां भी हिंसा बची है, चाहे वो प्री पोल हो, चाहे वो ड्यूरिंग कैंपेनिंग हो, चाहे वो पोस्ट पोल हो, वी आर कमिटेड टू काइंड ऑफ बी वेरी वेरी अलाइव टू दिस सिचुएशन। और जो भी हमें सख्ती से करना होगा इसके लिए हम करेंगे ताकि ये प्रोविजन ना रहे। हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में एक कंट्रोल रूम बनाया गया है जो दिन उसमें 5 किस्म के फीड्स होंगे: टीवी, सोशल मीडिया, वेबकास्टिंग विच इज ऑन दी बूथ्स, 1950 की लाइन जिससे शिकायत आती है, एंड ग्रीवेंसेस पोर्टल। सो one senior officer would be available in the control rooms in every district to look at these 5 feats. जहां से भी, और सी विजिल, 6th सी विजिल, जहां से भी कोई शिकायत मिलेगी उस पर सख्त कार्रवाई की जाएगी. एवरीवेयर अक्रॉस द कंट्री हमने बड़ी सख्त ताकीद दी है कि डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट्स, एसएसपीज अपने एरिया में हिंसा को ना होने दें. जितने नॉन अवेलेबल वारंट्स आज की डेट में हैं, पुलिस उनको ऑलरेडी हमारे विजिट्स के साथ साथ ऑलमोस्ट एग्जीक्यूट कर चुकी है, कर रही है. साथ ही जितने हिस्ट्री शीटर्स हैं उनको भी बहुत तेजी से देख रही है. देयर इज ऑल्सो ए नेटवर्क ऑफ चेक पोस्ट विच हैव बीन सेट अप in the international border, in the interstate border, and on the nodes from where some kinds of irregular, illegal goods can move across these states. In some international borders, there is also a drone-based checking which will happen. We are fully committed that हिंसा का कहीं कोई उपयोग नहीं होना चाहिए. हमने डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट्स को बहुत सख्त हिदायत दी है कि जितने लोग 3 साल से ऊपर हैं उन सबको आप बदल दीजिए पहले. और अकाउंटेबिलिटी स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम द हेड ऑफ द डिस्ट्रिक्ट, नॉट बिलो. ये उनका काम है कि जो नीचे हैं वो उनको देखें. किसी भी प्रोसेस में वॉलंटियर्स और कॉन्ट्रेक्चुअल स्टाफ किसी भी स्टेट ने लगाए वो इस्तेमाल नहीं होंगे. बहुत सारी स्टेट्स ने टेम्परेरी वॉलंटियर्स और कॉन्ट्रेक्चुअल स्टाफ को लगा के रखा है. वो किसी भी स्टेज में इस्तेमाल नहीं होंगे. डबल वोटिंग, इंपर्सोनेशन की भी शिकायत आती है. बहुत सख्त हिदायत दी गई है कि अगर इंपर्सोनेशन के केसेस आए तो आरपी एक्ट की सेक्शन में उनके खिलाफ एक्शन लें. साथियों, बहुत ही डिटर्मिनेशन के साथ हम हिंसा मुक्त चुनाव देना चाहते हैं. चुनाव में हिंसा की कतई गुंजाइश नहीं है. राष्ट्रपति महात्मा गांधी जी ने कहा था, मैं हिंसा का विरोध करता हूं क्योंकि उससे पाया हुआ समाधान बहुत कम वक्त के लिए होता है और उससे पैदा हुई नफरत हमेशा के लिए. Only peace is everlasting. Violence doesn't solve anything. We will request everyone, all political parties, all candidates, that they must be very, very, very cautious of this point. We'll be ruthless if anywhere the violence happens. Similarly, coming to the money, आप जानते हैं, मैंने पहले भी आपको दिखाया है कि पिछले जो 11 इलेक्शंस हुए हैं स्टेट में, राज्यों में, और उसी की वजह से ये कन्विक्शन है जिससे हम आपसे उसके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. वी आर टॉकिंग टू यू फ्रॉम द स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ आवर आउटकम्स. 3400 करोड़ रुपए के करीब का कैश मूवमेंट को रेस्ट्रिक्ट किया गया 11 इलेक्शन में. एवरी स्टेट, राजस्थान, तेलंगाना, मध्य प्रदेश, नागालैंड, गुजरात, हिमाचल, मिजोरम, त्रिपुरा, छत्तीसगढ़, हर स्टेट में उससे पहले इलेक्शन में जो भी हुआ था उससे 200, 400, 500, 700% की वृद्धि हुई. टोटल 3400 करोड़ इज अराउंड 835% हायर. ये जो धन बल का जो उपयोग है, जो धन का उपयोग है, जैसे बल का उपयोग कुछ राज्यों में ज़्यादा है, ऐसी धन का उपयोग भी कुछ राज्यों में ज़्यादा है. हम इस बात से भी बहुत वाकिफ हैं. वी आर अवेयर fully that there are differential vulnerabilities in each state. Some states have more violence, some states have more money, some states are more kind of a geographical problems. So whichever problem pertains to a particular state, based on this differential analysis, we would be having a differential level of treatment for that state. Misuse of money हम नहीं होने देंगे. इसके लिए भी हमने एनफोर्समेंट एजेंसीज को, सब स्टेट्स में एनफोर्समेंट एजेंसीज के साथ बैठक की है. दिल्ली में हम सब हेड्स ऑफ द एजेंसीज के साथ फिर से बैठक करने वाले हैं आज के बाद तुरंत. क्या कहा है उनको हमने कहा है कि जो फ्रीबीज, लिकर, कैश, कुकर, साड़ी, मशीन, whatever kind of freebies किस किस स्टेट में बंटने की शिकायतें आती हैं, उसको 100% रोकें. रोकने के लिए एनालिटिक्स बेस्ड कार्य करें. सो whom have we directed? GST, excise, state police, all agencies, income tax, कस्टम्स, कोस्ट गार्ड्स, BSF, SSB, बॉर्डर से जहां से भी जिसके नारकोटिक्स और जहां से भी फ्री भी आने की संभावना हो सकती है. GST वुड बी डूइंग द ई-वे बिल बेस्ड एनालिटिक्स टू सी if there is a trend of spurt in the demand for the FMCG in certain areas. Banks would look at if there is a demand, spurt in demand of the cash in the chests. So, National NPCIL will look at if there is a spurt in demand for the payments from the wallets. Digital payment से तो पैसा नहीं जा रहा है. एक दो स्टेट में ऐसा भी देखने में आया था कि आप अपने वैलेट के थ्रू किसी को भी पैसे ट्रांसफर करते रहिए, 2,000, 1,000 रुपये. ऑल दैट वी विल बी लुकिंग एट. बैंक्स वुड बी सेंडिंग ऑलमोस्ट डेली रिपोर्ट ऑफ द सस्पिशियस ट्रांजेक्शंस विच दे हैव. ऑल एयरपोर्ट्स इन द कंट्री would be checked regularly by the dedicated teams of income tax for any kind of movement through the airstrips. और जहां जिन राज्यों में एयर स्ट्रिप्स कॉमर्शियल के अतिरिक्त हैं, जहां हेलीकॉप्टर्स लैंड कर सकते हैं, वी हैव आस्क्ड एंड वी हैव गॉट एक्चुअली द ब्यूरो ऑफ सिविल एविएशन ऑफ सिक्योरिटी टू इशू डिटेल्ड इंस्ट्रक्शंस कि जिस किसी क्षेत्र में हेलीकॉप्टर या चार्टर्ड फ्लाइट उतरेगी, वहां जो भी सामान उसके अंदर में उसकी एज पर द डायरेक्शंस, एज पर द इंस्ट्रक्शंस एंड गाइडलाइंस ऑफ द BCS, ऑलमोस्ट इक्वल टू द commercial airports, checking होगी. Railways, RPF, GRP, both will be simultaneously, continuously looking at. Roads. So, cash or money, जो भी धन बल का दुरुपयोग करना चाहेंगे. Political finance, in any case, is a thing which is in news these days. So, this is our effort to add to that thing so that there are much more cleaner elections. Coming to the third M, which is the misinformation. This also troubles us a lot during the elections. While we are conscious of two facts, that the social media helps us in taking out our outreach programs. जितना हम यूथ, विमेन, वोटर्स को अपने पास लाने की कोशिश करते हैं, उस मीडियम को यूज करते हैं. We are also conscious that on social media, in democracy, there is a full freedom to criticize anybody, including criticizing us. Why not? If we are doing wrong, criticize us. But you should not be allowed to create fake news which is not based on facts, because it can disturb the public order. ये अफवाहें फैलाते हैं. तो हमने सबको इंस्ट्रक्शंस दी हैं किस किस्म का इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज तरीका किया. ये कुछ इस तरीके की नई चीज़ें हैं जो इस बार के चुनाव में सबको देखने की मिलेंगी. मैंने मसल पावर के बारे में भी बताया, मनी पावर के बारे में भी बताया, मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन के बारे में. तो ये जो प्रोसेस है इलेक्शन का, जो आज से शुरू हो रहा है काउंटिंग के बीच तक, जिसमें शोर शराबा, गंदगी की संभावना बनी रहती थी, वो हमारा प्रयास है कि कम से कम हो. उसके प्रति हम बहुत ज़्यादा सजग रहें. इसमें क्या करेंगे? Under Section 69 and 79(3) of the IT Act, authorized authority of each state is empowered to ask for takedown of the social media posts. In almost all states, authorized officials have been appointed or are being appointed. In each district, we have done thorough trainings as to how to deal with this kind of a menace. So this is on the preventive side. But there is also a promotional side. All our entire machinery will now react to whatever is coming by facts. We will try and join the issue instead of being in the background. If somebody is trying to do a fake kind of a narrative, which is disturbing the level playing field, which is disturbing the public order, or which is not based on the facts, and which has crossed the line of the criticism, we would be also joining them. We will also launch very soon on our website something called Myth versus Reality. This is going to be live very soon. Means, ये myth फैलाया जा रहा है, ये उसकी reality है. हम अपनी तरफ से आगे बढ़ के आपको educate करेंगे कि ये उसकी reality है. और सोशल मीडिया के बारे में आप सबसे भी एक अपील है कि थोड़ा देख ले, मतलब जो आया उसको आगे नहीं करना चाहिए। इसमें एक बहुत बड़ा झूठ का बाजार भी है। मैं इसके बारे में सोच रहा था तो मैंने कुछ चंद लाइनें लिखी थी जो आपको बताना चाहता हूँ। झूठ के बाजार में रौनक तो बहुत है, गोया बुलबुले जैसी तुरंत ही फट जाती है। पकड़ भी लोगे तो क्या हासिल होगा सिवाय धोखे के। तो उसको थोड़ा रोक के देखें, समझ लें आगे बढ़ाने लायक है कि नहीं है, ना बढ़ाएं। नाउ फ्रेंड्स, द लास्ट प्रॉब्लम। चुनाव के दौरान हमारे सामने एक और बहुत बड़ी समस्या है, और वो समस्या है चुनावी प्रक्रिया का, पॉलिटिकल डिस्कोर्स का घटता हुआ स्तर, जिसमें एज वी कॉल इट, इट्स ए प्लम्पटिंग लेवल ऑफ द पॉलिटिकल डिस्कोर्स। अगर हमने सब पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को बहुत स्ट्रांग एडवाइजरी इशू की हैं, आप पूछेंगे कि एडवाइजरी तो दी, उसके बाद एक्शन क्या होगा, उसका भी जवाब मैं आपको दूंगा। एडवाइजरी इशू की हैं, जो भी पिछले 11-12 इलेक्शंस में, एक्चुअली जो पिछले 5 साल में जितने भी एमसीसी के वायलेशंस होते रहे, उसको हमने इकट्ठा करके एक फाइनल एडवाइजरी दी है बिफोर द 24। सो दिस इज हाउ वी हैव सेट आवर ग्राउंड्स, एंड व्हाट वी हैव डन इन दैट, वी हैव सेट, we are putting political parties on notice. Means we have asked political parties to give copy of our guidelines to each star campaigner. Political parties के जितने भी बड़े नेतागण स्टार कैंपेनर्स हैं जो कैंपेनिंग करेंगे, उनके व्यक्तिगत नोटिस में हमारी गाइडलाइंस ले आइए। ये जिम्मेदारी हमने पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को दी है। सो नाउ व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, वी हैव पुट देम ऑन नोटिस and we will presume knowledge of the guidelines. These are the two fundamental changes which we have made silently. People were asking, you issued so many notices last time, did nothing. We left it at that. That was a moral censor. Now we will go beyond. We will go beyond, and here we have said we will also look at the past. We will also look at the history. We might look at a calibrated approach dealing with the MCC violations, which may be, जो एमसीसी वायलेशंस किस प्रकार की हो सकती हैं। आई मीन स्टेटमेंट्स which should inspire rather than divide, इशू बेस्ड कैंपेन हो, हेट स्पीचेस, रिलीजियस स्पीचेस, प्राइवेट लाइफ का क्रिटिसिज्म is what is absolutely avoidable. People should be refraining from giving unverified and misleading advertisements or masquerading as an advertisement as a news. इसमें हमने एडिटर्स को भी एडवाइजरी इशू की है। वो एक न्यूज़पेपर में बड़ा बड़ा ऊपर में छप जाता है कि इसकी लहर और उसकी लहर। अगर ऐसा है तो साफ साफ लिखें कि ये एडवर्टाइजमेंट है। लेट इट नॉट पास थ्रू advertisement. We have issued these advisories. Now the time is, during this election, to go beyond advisories, take concrete action, for which in the advisories there are relevant sections of the acts which are also inbuilt. So notice is there, knowledge is there, sections are there. So please, our request is कि campaigning के दौरान please don't try to cross the red line. ये वैसे भी इसलिए जरूरी है दैट इन दिस डिजिटल वर्ल्ड जो भी एक बार मुंह से निकलता है उसका रिकॉर्ड तो 100 साल तक के लिए पैदा हो गया, वो बार बार चलता रहता है. सो प्लीज अवॉइड क्रिएटिंग डिजिटल मेमोरी ऑफ बैड वर्ड्स विच आर कमिंग फ्रॉम योर माउथ. प्लीज बी सिविलाइज्ड ड्यूरिंग द इलेक्शन. दिस इज व्हाट इज आवर एडवाइस. और एक बार जब लड़ाई झगड़ा होता है ना तो प्रेम का धागा टूट जाता है, और जब प्रेम का धागा टूट गया तो बड़ी मुश्किल होती है. रहीम ने कहा था, रहीमन धागा प्रेम का मत तोड़ो छिटकाए, टूटे से फिर ना मिले, मिले गांठ पड़ जाए. तो क्यों ऐसी गांठ बांधनी है? थोड़ा प्यार मोहब्बत से कैंपेनिंग करें, शोर शराबा कम हो. फ्रेंड्स, पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को और भी बहुत सारी स्ट्रीमलाइन करने के लिए उनकी एक्टिविटीज़ को हमने कदम उठाए हैं. ये मैं पिक्चर आपको इसलिए दिखा रहा हूँ कि हर फील्ड के अंदर में वी आर रेडी दैट हाउ वी वुड कंट्रोल दिस. क्या किया है? अराउंड 537 रजिस्टर्ड अनरिकॉग्नाइज्ड पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज हैव बीन टेकन आउट ऑफ द पॉलिटिकल स्पेस. वो क्या करती थी? किसी के नाम में कैंडिडेट खड़ा कर दिया, गाड़ियों की परमिशन ले ली, दूसरा कोई यूज कर रहा है, किस्म किस्म की भांति एंटाइटलमेंट ले लिया, भांति भांति का वो देवर क्लटरिंग दी पॉलिटिकल स्पेस crowding out the genuine persons. So that is what it has been done. सारी फाइनेंशियल जितने भी अकाउंट्स हैं पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज के और जितनी भी कंट्रीब्यूशन रिपोर्ट्स हैं वो सब डिजिटाइज्ड फॉर्म में हमारे पास आएंगी, ऐसा हमने उनको कहा। डायरेक्शंस दे दिए, इट हैज स्टार्टेड कमिंग। तो जो भी पॉलिटिकल फाइनेंस की चर्चा देश में चल रही है उसके साथ साथ ये भी कार्य पीछे से बैकग्राउंड में चल रहा है, बिकॉज कमीशन ऑलवेज बिलीव्स इन द ट्रांसपेरेंसी इन द पॉलिटिकल फाइनेंसिंग। Plummeting level, I have already said. We have also asked the political parties to be very, very respectful to the persons with disabilities in their discourse, not to use the abusive words, also to not use children at all during the campaigning. बच्चे नहीं है इसलिए कि उन्हें कैंपेनिंग में लाया जाए. We will be very strict if anybody does that. We are also giving advisories to political parties that have internal organizational structures within your party, within the parameters and in a right form. Friends, we are appointing 2,100 observers. जितनी चीजें मैंने आपको बताई, ये सब चीज को फील्ड ऑफिसर्स तो करेंगे ही करेंगे. हम 2100 ऑब्जर्वर्स को अपॉइंट कर रहे हैं और इस बार उनको हमने क्या खास सख्त हिदायत दी है, और जो भी डीओज लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं कि नहीं कर रहे हैं वो स्पेसिफिकली इसको देखेंगे. इंड्यूसमेंट एंड कोअर्शन, इंटिमिडेशन फ्री इलेक्शन हो, इस पर स्पेसिफिकली नजर रखेंगे, हमें रिपोर्ट करेंगे. फोर्स जितनी भी जा रही है किसी भी राज्य में उसका डिप्लॉयमेंट रैंडमाइज्ड हो. ऐसा नहीं कि उस फोर्स को कहीं बैठा दिया, काम नहीं कर रही, या कहीं दूसरी जगह भेज दिया जहां जरूरत नहीं है. दे विल बी रैंडमाइजिंग द फोर्स. Entire election machinery will be randomized in the presence of the in the presence of the observers. Now, having done all this, what are the, जैसे मैंने पहली स्लाइड में बताया था, तो what are we expecting, हमारे elections कैसे होंगे? So, let me show you this. What is our effort? What is our endeavor? As a last slide, let me tell you. There are reduced repolls, that is what we are endeavoring. Zero violence, that's what we are endeavoring. No inducements, जिस पे कार्य हो. फेक न्यूज कर्व की जाए. कैंपेनिंग क्लटर और बदमिजाजी कम हो और लोगों का पार्टिसिपेशन बढ़े. जो 67% पार्टिसिपेशन था वो बढ़ के अधिक से अधिक पहुंचे. With this, I would like to, in the end, appeal to the voters that elections belong to you. बहुत मेहनत की है हमने 2 साल में, आगे भी करेंगे, लेकिन दामोदर अब आपके हाथ में है. We are handing over the baton to you. Please come and vote. पॉलिटिकल अपने जितने भी हमारे चुनाव कराने कर्मी जाएंगे उनसे मैं फिर से एक बार अपील करना चाहता हूँ, आज सुन रहे होंगे कहीं ना कहीं, कि लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड प्रोवाइड करना उनका परम धर्म है. इसमें से कतई भी कोताही ना बरतें. उनको बताया गया है, इंस्ट्रक्शंस दी गई हैं, अगर बरतेंगे तो विल बी रूथलेस इन डीलिंग, बिकॉज मेजॉरिटी ऐसा नहीं करती. अगर 1-2 करेगा तो उसकी वजह से हम अपने इलेक्शंस को बदनाम नहीं होने देंगे. विल बी रूथलेस. एंड लास्टली, माय अपील टू द पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज अगेन. वी आर वेरी कमिटेड फॉर एथिकल पॉलिटिकल डिस्कोर्स. I would like parties to again appeal that please maintain decorum in campaigning and refrain from abuses and personal attacks. राजनीतिक दलों को बहुत पर्सनल अटैक से बचना चाहिए. फिर मुझे बदर साहब का एक शेर याद आता है, दुश्मनी जमकर करो लेकिन ये गुंजाइश रहे. दुश्मनी जम के करो लेकिन ये गुंजाइश रहे, जब कभी हम दोस्त हो जाएं तो शर्मिंदा ना हो. और वैसे भी आजकल जल्दी जल्दी दोस्त बनना और जल्दी जल्दी दुश्मन बनने की प्रक्रिया थोड़ी ज्यादा चल रही है. तो पार्टीज कम से कम ऐसा ना गंदा बोलें कि वो एक दूसरे के दुश्मन बन जाएं और फिर कुछ ना हो सके. विद दिस I would once again thank all the press media who have come here. Very sincerely, this is what I have seen in now 3.5 years. You are our natural allies, you are eyes and ears, हमारा कोई क्रिटिसिज्म होता है आप करते हैं, हम अपनी बात कहते हैं आप करते हैं, आप ही के थ्रू हम वोटर्स पे पहुंच सकते हैं। प्लीज़ वोटर्स तक हमारी बात पहुंचाइए, उनको बाहर निकलवाइए। ये सारी स्लाइड्स, सारा प्रेजेंटेशन आपको अभी तुरंत इसी माध्यम से हमारी वेबसाइट पे मिल जाएगा। डाउनलोड, यूज इट इन योर स्टोरीज। कुछ और चाहिए तो हमें बताइए, हम देंगे। नाउ आई कम टू द शेड्यूल which you were waiting, and I hope I didn't delay it. I have not bored you by what I said. So now we'll be announcing schedule in 3 phases. First, for the by-elections. There are 26 assembly constituencies in the country जहां by-poll होना अभी है due. बिहार, गुजरात, हरियाणा, झारखंड, महाराष्ट्र, त्रिपुरा, उत्तर प्रदेश, वेस्ट बंगाल, तेलंगाना, हिमाचल प्रदेश, राजस्थान, कर्नाटका, तमिलनाडु, इन सब राज्यों में बाई इलेक्शंस होना ड्यू है। आज तक की जितनी भी वैकेंसी थी बाई इलेक्शंस की, 26 की 26 हम पूरी कर रहे हैं, ताकि हमारे खाते में कोई भी वैकेंसी ना रहे। और ये उसी फेज में होंगी जिस फेज में पार्लियामेंट्री इलेक्शन उस पर्टिकुलर इलाके में हो रहा है। वो कब हो रहा है वो मैं आपको जब फेज आएंगी तो उसमें दिखा दूंगा। बट ऑल दी 26 assembly constituencies will go to the by-poll so that during this election itself we can complete this entire process. अगर आपने नोट कर लिया हो तो now I come to the assembly elections. साथियों, 4 राज्यों में असेंबली इलेक्शंस जैसे मैंने बताया था जून में खत्म हो रहे हैं। सिक्किम जो 2 जून को विद 32 असेंबली सीट्स, उड़ीसा जून 24 जून with 147 assembly constituencies, Arunachal Pradesh on 2nd of June with 60 assembly constituencies, Andhra Pradesh on 11th June 24 with 175 assembly constituencies. These are the simultaneous elections to the parliament. They'll be held simultaneously. They will also be held in the same phase where the parliament elections will be held. So now, when I tell you the parliamentary elections, then I will tell you. But in case of Andhra Pradesh, the date of issue of Gazette notification would be 18th of April 2024, और डेट ऑफ पोल वुड बी 13th May 2024. तो आंध्रा के केस में नोटिफिकेशन 18 अप्रैल 24 को होगा और डेट ऑफ पोल 13th May 24 को होगी। इसके बाद अरुणाचल प्रदेश में डेट ऑफ गजट नोटिफिकेशन 20 मार्च को होगा और डेट ऑफ पोल 29 अप्रैल को होगी। 20 मार्च को गजट नोटिफिकेशन, 29 अप्रैल को डेट ऑफ पोल। सॉरी 19 अप्रैल को, 20 मार्च 19 अप्रैल। इस प्रकार सिक्किम में भी 20 मार्च और 19 अप्रैल, 20 मार्च को नोटिफिकेशन, 19 अप्रैल को डेट ऑफ पोल। उड़ीसा में फर्स्ट नोटिफिकेशन, दिस विल बी कंडक्टेड in phases, and first phase would be on 18th April and date of poll would be 13th May. 5th phase में होगा second phase of the assembly of Odisha, 26th April and 20th May. Then 6th phase and 7th phase also Odisha would have the assembly elections. 6th phase being on 29th April and 25th May elections. ये सब आपके साथ में हम अभी शेयर कर रहे हैं ताकि आपको लिखने में, रिपोर्ट करने में इसको आसानी हो। कमिंग टू दी जनरल इलेक्शंस टू दी लोकसभा, जो विश्व का सबसे बड़ा लोकतांत्रिक त्योहार है, सबसे बड़ा लोकतांत्रिक त्योहार, बिगेस्ट। 543 पार्लियामेंट्री कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज, ऑफ विच 84 are reserved for SCs and 47 are reserved for STs. तो इस 543 पार्लियामेंट्री कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज के महा त्योहार में शेड्यूल बताने से पहले सभी वोटर्स का फिर से हाथ जोड़ के आग्रह, अनुरोध, गुजारिश that please join for the voting. Come on the day of voting. छुट्टी मनाने ना जाएं, जरूर आ जाएं. Schedule of the Lok Sabha poll, phase 1. We'll do it in 7 phases, as was done last time. 7 phases. Phase 1 will start from 20th March notification, 5 days from now. And last date of withdrawal would be 30th March and date of poll would be 19th of April. इसमें फेज 1 का शेड्यूल एक दिन से हमें 2 बार करना पड़ रहा है. फिर बिहार के लिए वहाँ एक फेस्टिवल है, तो नोटिफिकेशन की डेट सेम है, लेकिन बस लास्ट डेट ऑफ विड्रॉल हमें 30 मार्च की जगह 2 अप्रैल सिर्फ बिहार की फर्स्ट फेज के लिए करनी पड़ रही है, क्योंकि वहाँ त्योहार हैं. और 19 अप्रैल को यहाँ वोटिंग होगी और पूरी कंट्री में 4 जून को काउंटिंग होगी. सो फेज 1 दिस विल लुक लाइक दिस. ये मैप भी हम आपको प्रोवाइड कर देंगे. अभी ये जो येलो पोर्शन है ये ऐसा दिखाई देगा. तो इसमें जो फेज 1 का जो मैप है, इसमें नॉर्थ ईस्ट, नीचे तमिलनाडु, राजस्थान, सेंटर में छत्तीसगढ़, मध्य प्रदेश और उत्तराखंड, और ऊपर में जम्मू कश्मीर की 1 पार्लियामेंट्री कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी. ये येलो फर्स्ट फेज का आपके सामने में मैप है. सेकंड फेज और फर्स्ट फेज में 21 स्टेट्स जाएंगी पोल में. सेकंड फेज notification will start on 28th of March and date of poll will be 26th of April. Similarly here, in case of J&K, because of the some holiday, the date of one day would be different, date of security of nomination would be different, but date of gazette notification or date of poll would be common. Phase 1 में 21 राज्य पोलिंग में जाएंगे और फेज 2 में उसमें से और राज्य जुड़ जाएंगे. सो दिस इज द मैप विच वुड बी फेज 2, जिसमें हम नॉर्थ ईस्ट में काफ़ी जगह चुनाव को कंप्लीट करते हुए, तमिलनाडु में कंप्लीट करते हुए, सेकंड फेज में राजस्थान को भी कंप्लीट करेंगे. फेज 3 वुड बी फ्रॉम 12th of April and date of poll will be 7th of May. इसमें भी टोटल 12 स्टेट्स उस समय में जा रही होंगी और इस फेज में 3 नए राज्य में चुनाव शुरू होगा. इसका मैप कुछ इस तरह से दिखाई देगा. राजस्थान हम कवर कर चुके होंगे, तमिलनाडु कवर कर चुके होंगे, केरला कवर कर चुके होंगे, गुजरात इसमें कवर कर लेंगे, नॉर्थ ईस्ट पूरा कवर कर चुके होंगे और हम नए राज्यों को मिला के 3 इसमें नए राज्य भी जुड़ेंगे. फोर्थ फेज में 18 अप्रैल को गजट नोटिफिकेशन होगा और डेट ऑफ पोलिंग वुड बी 13th of May. Date of counting in the entire country would be 4th of June for all by-elections, for the assembly elections, for the parliamentary elections. इसका मैप कुछ इस तरह का दिखाई देगा. इस समय तक हम इसमें तेलंगाना, आंध्रा, उड़ीसा would start, and by that time, other than that, entire South India would be complete, entire Western India would be complete, North East would be complete. और फिफ्थ फेज 26 अप्रैल से शुरू होगी और 20 मई तक चलेगी. 20 मई तक डेट ऑफ पोल होगी. बीच में नॉमिनेशन, स्क्रूटनी और विड्रॉल की डेट्स रहेंगी. Counting, of course, is 4th of June. It will look like this, which is in front of you. And phase 5 में 49 constituencies will be going to the poll. Phase 6 में 57 constituencies will go to the poll, starting from the gazette notification on 29th of April and finishing on 25th of May 2024. इसका मैप कुछ इस तरह का दिखाई देगा कि मोस्टली यूपी, बिहार, बंगाल, उड़ीसा और साथ में कुछ नॉर्थ का पोर्शन चालू रहेगा. लास्ट फेज, 7th phase, notification will be on 7th of May and polling on 1st of June. तो लास्ट पोलिंग वुड बी ऑन 1st of June एंड काउंटिंग ऑन 4th. एंड इस फेज में पूरा पंजाब, हरियाणा भी शामिल रहेगा, बंगाल, बिहार, उड़ीसा. दिस इज हाउ द मैप विल लुक. येलो डिनोट्स द फर्स्ट फेज and accordingly the legends are given. We will share this map also with you, ताकि आप इसे अपने साथ रख सकें, इसके हिसाब से देख सकें. ये भी कोशिश की है हमने, और अगर पूरी फेज वाइज हम पिक्चर दें, ये भी एक अच्छी स्नैपशॉट है, जिसमें फेज 1 में 102 कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज, फेज 2 में 89, फेज 3 में 94, फेज 4 में 96, 49, 57, 57. So we'll start with the 102, the largest, slowly come down and finish northeast, move up from the south and finish the western area. तो इसमें वेदर और हर चीज़ का ध्यान रखते हुए काफ़ी सोचने के बाद ये शेड्यूल बनाया गया है. विद दिस, जो सिंगल पोल डेट है वो 22 स्टेट में होगी. 2 राज्य 4 बार में जाएंगे, कर्नाटका, राजस्थान, त्रिपुरा, मणिपुर. 3 फेज में 2 जाएंगे, छत्तीसगढ़ एंड असम. 4 फेज में 3 जाएंगे, उड़ीसा, मध्य प्रदेश, झारखंड. 5 फेज में 2 जाएंगे, महाराष्ट्र एंड जम्मू कश्मीर. जम्मू कश्मीर की हर पार्लियामेंट्री कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी के लिए 1 फेज होगी. और 7 फेज में 3 जाएंगे, उत्तर प्रदेश, बिहार एंड वेस्ट बंगाल. विद दिस फ्रेंड्स, आई एंड माई एड्रेस and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for those detailed remarks. Please hold on. So you raise your hands, हाथ खड़ा कर दीजिए. माइकर्स आपके पास आएंगे. तो we will start with you in the first row. Where are the micers? आप आइए, इनको दे दीजिए. जो CC sir will take 4-5 questions at one time. So after that we'll take the next person.
Sir, मैं मोहित दुबे हूँ न्यूज़ नेशन से. सर, मेरा सवाल ये है कि आपने 7 चरणों में मतदान ये करवाया है. बहुत बड़ी चुनौती है, क्योंकि दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा लोकतंत्र हिंदुस्तान है. अपोजिशन पार्टियां जो हैं ये आरोप लगा रही हैं कि 7 चरणों में क्या ज़रूरत है और इसकी वजह से सत्ताधारी दल को फ़ायदा होता है. और छोटा सा सवाल सर एक और है कि ईवीएम को लेके लगातार अपोजिशन धरना दे रहा है, सवाल उठा रहा है. आप हमेशा ये कहते रहे कि निष्पक्षता के साथ आप मतदान करवाते रहते हैं ईवीएम के माध्यम से, तो उनके सवाल के बारे में आप क्या जवाब देंगे?
आप ये जो लाइट जैकेट पहने हैं सेंटर में, इनको दे दीजिए. जो जस्ट होल्ड ऑन.
सर, मेरा नाम रविंद्र सिंह शोरान है. आई वुड लाइक टू आस्क कि जो आपने बताया कि 3500 करोड़ रुपए को सीज किया, उसके बाद कार्रवाई कितने लोग जेल गए, कौन कौन सी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज इन्वॉल्व थी, और जो लीकर सीज किया गया उसमें कितने केसेस रजिस्टर हुए, उसकी डिटेल्स इलेक्शन कमीशन हमारे साथ कभी शेयर करता नहीं है आफ्टर द इलेक्शन हैपन्स.
दिस लेडी इन द फ्रंट, या इधर मिडिल में जो है, इनको माइकर्स, इनको दे दीजिए. इनको दे दीजिए. प्लीज स्विच ऑन योर माइक.
Great. Samir Hussain from BBC News. This is an incredible feat to try and get every person who's eligible to vote. I'm wondering how much money is being spent. And in addition, what is the biggest concern in terms of these elections?
Okay. The lady in the 4th row over there with that black dress, उनको दे दीजिए. माइकर मिडिल में. उनको जो बीच में है, वो लेडी जो है. Give it to her. Yes. Switch on your mic.
Hi, I'm Ashlyn. You said in your speech that...
Can you just introduce yourself?
I'm Ashlyn Matthew.
From?
National Herald.
Thank you.
You had said in your speech that there should be no hate speech. There will be a calibrated approach to code violations. But there have been several complaints against the Prime Minister and Amit Shah, but none of the ECA has not taken action against them. But you have taken action against the opposition leaders. So even if you take a calibrated approach, so won't it be the opposition leaders who get picked up more, who will get notice from you more than the ruling party leaders?
Yeah, the gentleman in the second row here. Yeah, please. Yeah, mic is live.
Hello, hello. Sir, Venkatraman from Dinamala, from Tamil Nadu. Sir, every election you are getting new experience regarding the control of money power. How are you going to control the money power? For example, last election 2019, at Vellore constituency, the candidate Kadir Anand, from his place, crores and crores of rupees money has been recovered from him. But what kind of action has been taken against him? And he's going to be the future candidate from the same constituency.
Let me first take the answers of these questions of the first round. First question ये था कि 7 फेज में इलेक्शन क्यों? और अपोजिशन पार्टीज का ये आरोप है कि 7 फेज में होने से लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड डिस्टर्ब होती है, किसी को फायदा होता है। एक बार कभी पूरी कंट्री का भौगोलिक और ज्योग्राफिक इतिहास और ज्योग्राफिक स्थिति को नजर डाल के देखिए। नदी, नाले, बर्फ, पहाड़, जंगल, गर्मी, सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस का मूवमेंट कभी सोच के देखिए। दे विल बी मूविंग लाइक within 3 to 4 days between the gap in the phases, they will walk length and breadth of the country. उनके ऊपर प्रेशर कभी देखिए कितना होता होगा। कभी इलेक्शन मशीनरी की पूरी प्रोसेस, कभी एग्जाम्स, कभी फेस्टिवल्स, होली, रमजान, रामनवमी, पता नहीं क्या क्या फेस्टिवल्स बीच में है। जब कैलेंडर पे हम लेके बैठते हैं तो एक डेट फिक्स करते हैं, दूसरे में चली जाती है, दूसरे फिक्स करते हैं, कहीं प्रॉब्लम आ जाती है। हम किसी को फेवर करने के लिए, किसी को नुकसान करने के लिए कोई भी एक्शन नहीं लेते, कोई भी एक्शन नहीं लेते। किसी को ऐसा भ्रम है तो वो गलत है। हम फैक्ट्स पे बात कर सकते हैं। जहां की जो मैंने कहा था, हर राज्य अपने आप में अलग अलग है। किसी राज्य में 1 में भी है, किसी राज्य में 7 में भी है। जिन राज्यों में 7 में है वहां का विस्तार बहुत बड़ा है, नंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट्री कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज बड़ी हैं, कंटेस्टेशंस ज्यादा हैं, इसलिए वो 7 में है। माई फ्रेंड फ्रॉम द तमिलनाडु हैज आस्क्ड, वहां 1 में है, लेकिन वहां दूसरा चैलेंज है जिसके लिए व्हाट ही हैज टॉक्ड अबाउट, देयर इज ए चैलेंज ऑफ मनी पावर इन दैट पर्टिकुलर स्टेट, एंड एज आई मेंशन्ड, वी आर एक्सट्रीमली केयरफुल ऑफ व्हाट ही हैज आस्क्ड। इफ you learn it from the assembly elections which happened in another southern state recently. We have been able to cure that menace of money power to a very large extent, and we would control this. Please don't be worried. Similarly, I'll on the expenditure side take this question from BBC that how much we spend. Each candidate is allowed to spend in the parliamentary constituencies up to 80 lakhs, up to limit, and in the assembly up to 90 up to 90 lakhs, and in the assembly up to 38. So if you combine amongst the candidate, that's the upper limit, which is the expenditure. You have asked about, somebody asked about EVMs. EVMs के बारे में मैं बहुत बार बता चुका हूं, लेकिन ठीक है, आपने फिर क्वेश्चन पूछा है तो, और देश में एक ऐसा अभियान भी चल रहा है जिसको बताना भी जरूरी है, इसलिए मैं थोड़ा विस्तार में बता ही देता हूं। वैसे बहुत बार बता चुका हूं, 40 बार लगभग इस देश की संवैधानिक कोर्ट्स, हाई कोर्ट्स एंड सुप्रीम कोर्ट्स ईवीएम के ऊपर में जितनी चुनौतियां हुई हैं उनको देख चुकी हैं। चुनौतियां किस प्रकार की हुई? ये हैक हो सकती है, चोरी हो जाती है, 19 लाख मिसिंग हैं, इसमें दिखाई नहीं देता है, ये कंप्यूटर से खराब हो जाती है, रिजल्ट्स बदल सकता है, मैनिपुलेट हो सकता है। हर बार संवैधानिक कोर्ट्स ने इसको रिजेक्ट किया है। क्या कहा है? कभी कहा कि इसमें वायरस लग ही नहीं सकता, नो क्वेश्चन ऑफ इंट्रोड्यूसिंग वायरस। कभी कहा इनवैलिड वोट्स नहीं हो सकते, कभी कहा रिगिंग इज नॉट पॉसिबल, कभी कहा कि व्हेन देयर इज सेक्शन 61A इन द आरपी एक्ट विच एम्पावर्स द यूज ऑफ द ईवीएम, जब तक वो खत्म ना हो जब तक ये प्रश्न उठाना गलत है। कभी कहा कि ईवीएम्स आर फूल प्रूफ डिवाइसेस फॉर काउंटिंग एंड एलिगेशंस ऑफ टेम्परिंग आर बेसलेस। कभी कहा कि आप एक के बदले 5 वीवीपैट गिनिए, वो हमने शुरू कर दिया। अब तो ये आ गया है नतीजा कि कोर्ट्स ने जुर्माना लगाना शुरू कर दिया। दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट ने मिस्चीवियस कहते हुए 10,000 रुपए का जुर्माना लगाया, फिर माननीय उच्चतम न्यायालय ने 50,000 रुपए का जुर्माना लगाया। अभी फिर रिसेंटली माननीय उच्चतम न्यायालय ने एक पिटीशन खत्म की है। कितनी बार सुनेंगे, क्यों बार बार वही बिलाप करना है? कोई चीज़ है तो हमसे पूछिए। हैक नहीं हो सकती, किसी सूरत में नहीं हो सकती। एंड जो परिणाम आते हैं वही प्रमाण है, बार बार परिणाम आते हैं। कोई भी ईवीएम लेके बैठ जाता है सोशल मीडिया पे, वो डिब्बा लेके एक बैठ जाता है। और आजकल एक नया ट्रेंड शुरू हुआ है, वो थोड़ा सा एक्सपर्ट भी बन जाता है। आजकल 1-2 एक्सपर्ट भी चल रहे हैं सोशल मीडिया पे। वो कहाँ की डिग्री हैं, कहाँ के एक्सपर्ट हैं, थोड़ा देखना भी चाहिए। वो बताते हैं कि ये डिब्बा है, वो टूल बॉक्स जैसा डिब्बा होता है, उसके अंदर में क्या है पता नहीं है। उसमें से एक गत्ते के डिब्बे में से एक स्लिप भी निकलती है। वो धरना भी हो जाता है कि ये स्लिप बदल गई, मैंने यहाँ बटन दबाया था और यहाँ ही गलत निकल गई। भाई आपने क्या दबाया था, किसी को बताया था क्या? क्या निकला, किसी को बताया था क्या? अरे संविधान कोर्ट्स कह रही हैं। अच्छा, जितनी बार हमसे आप पूछेंगे उतनी बार हम उसका एक क्वेश्चन लेके आपको FAQs में डाल देंगे। 100+ क्वेश्चन हैं। और भाई political parties have come into existence because of the EVMs. There are many smaller political parties which in the age of the ballot papers might have not come into the existence. It was the fairness and the political parties know in the heart of their hearts. सब EVMs का 3-3 बार मॉक पोल होता है, कैंडिडेट्स के सामने में होता है। फिर भी अगर कुछ आप किताब लाए हैं, किसी के पास है क्या? एक हमने किताब भी बनाई है, एक जितने लीगल केसेस 40 केस, देखिए दीज आर 40 केसेस ऑन ईवीएम। इसमें FAQ भी है, आप सब लीजिए इस किताब को हमसे। इसमें FAQ भी है और इसमें फ्लो चार्ट्स भी हैं। देखिए हमारी वेबसाइट पे है ये, थोड़ा पढ़ने का तो कष्ट करिए, खासतौर से जो एक्सपर्ट महोदय हैं। वो बहुत सारे एक्सपर्ट्स हैं यहाँ, मतलब कंट्री में कोई भी बन जाता है, किसी पे कोई रोक नहीं है। हमने इसमें चार्ट भी लगाया है कि कितनी बार सत्ता में रहने वाली पार्टियां ईवीएम ने बदल दी। तो मुझे भी ईवीएम पे फिर मैं रात सोच रहा था ये प्रश्न तो आएगा जरूर, तो फिर रात को मैंने कुछ लिखा अपने हाथ से, वो फिर आपको सुनाता हूं। अधूरी हसरतों का इल्जाम हर बार हम पर लगाना ठीक नहीं। ये ईवीएम कह रही है, मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं। अधूरी हसरतों का इल्जाम हर बार हम पे लगाना ठीक नहीं। वफा खुद से नहीं होती, खता ईवीएम की कहते हो। और बाद में गोया जब परिणाम आता है तो उस पर कायम भी नहीं रहते, आप ही के पक्ष में रिजल्ट आ जाता है। ये क्या बात है भाई? कितने दिन? EVMs are 100% safe, 100% sure. We know now. In last 2 years, again, we have done large number of improvements. एक EVM की नंबर जो भी किस बूथ पे जाएगी वो कैंडिडेट को दिया जाएगा, इसलिए इसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। नाउ जो MCC के बारे में प्रश्न पूछा, जिसमें आप ये पूछना चाह रहे हैं कि हम बायस्ड होके किसी के खिलाफ एक्शन लेते हैं, किसी के खिलाफ नहीं लेते, यही आप प्रश्न बेसिकली पूछना चाह रही हैं। पूछना नहीं चाह रही हैं, आरोप लगा रही हैं, जिसका मुझे जवाब आपको देना चाहिए। करेक्ट, वेरी राइट, यू हैव ए क्वेश्चन राइट टू आस्क। आप पिछले 8, 10, 11 इलेक्शंस की सारे आरोप जितने हमारे पास आए हैं वो सबको एक बार पढ़िए, सबको पढ़ने के बाद सबके नोटिसेस देखिए जो हमने दिए हैं, उसमें जहां जहां कोई भी वायलेशन एस्टेब्लिश होता हो, उस नोटिस के बाद जवाब आने के बाद भी हमने ऐसा नहीं है सब में कार्रवाई की है. We are very, as I said, they are kind of a moral censor which we have in the beginning issued. और जिस किसी के भी खिलाफ में अगर कहीं भी कोई केस बनेगा, howsoever high star campaigner he or she may be, we will not sit back, we will take action. Next.
Sir, we'll take some questions from that side. Yeah, the middle row. There is a gentleman holding both his hands up. उनको दे दीजिए.
बोलिए थोड़ा जल्दी दें.
Yes sir.
माइक के लोग थोड़ा जल्दी दें.
थोड़ा माइक जरा जल्दी दीजिए. वो सेंट्रल रो में है वो. हाथ
जी.
उठा रहे हैं वो.
जी मैं आशीष हूँ अमर उजाला डिजिटल से. मेरा सवाल है सर, जो आपने अभी 4M की बात की थी, उसके लिए क्या कोई एडिशनल डिप्लॉयमेंट आपने किया है? अगर किया है तो वो क्या है सर?
Just yeah, give it to him there. Yeah, please.
मैं राजस्थान पत्रिका से नवनीत मिश्रा हूँ. अभी इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड पे जिस तरीके से घमासान मचा हुआ है और सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी उस सिस्टम को खत्म कर दिया है, और जो चुनावी चंदे की जो पारदर्शिता की बातें होती हैं, तो उसके लिए वो सिस्टम लाया गया था. तो आयोग का अगला कदम क्या होगा, क्योंकि इसके बाद से कैश की चुनौती है वो बढ़ेगी चुनाव में.
Sir, Sunil Prabhu from NDTV. Just two, three points, because you just now made a comment that every EVM has a number, and your own commission had asked for a totalizer. That totalizer has not happened because, if you wanted in the essence of free and fair election, then you should not be identified. The others, you said disclose. In the interest of the general public, and now we can't get from Mr. Arun Goel because he hasn't only cited personal reasons. In the best interest of the commission, would you be able to disclose what exactly happened? Why did Mr. Arun Goel, who worked with you and sadly is not here today in this entire process, if you can come clean about what exactly happened, what were the differences that led to his sudden and abrupt exit?
That's Ravi Tripathi, DD News. Go over there. Yeah.
सर मैं रवि त्रिपाठी हूँ जी न्यूज़ से. मेरा सवाल ये है कि एक तो सीट के नंबर जो सर आपने दिए हैं वो 543 के बजाय 544 हो रहे हैं काउंट करने पर. ऐसा क्यों है, ये तो जानकारी. और दूसरा कि मॉडल कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट का जो सवाल खड़ा किया हमारे किसी दोस्त ने कि बार बार विपक्ष ये सवाल खड़ा करता है, तो पिछली बार उन्होंने नाम दिया कि मोदी कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट, जिसमें मोदी के खिलाफ आप सॉफ्ट होते हैं और राहुल गांधी के खिलाफ आप ज़्यादा एक्शन लेते हैं. ऐसा क्यों होता है, ऐसा आरोप क्यों लगता है चुनाव आयोग?
Gentleman next to you. Yeah.
सर नीरज हूँ न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया से. सर पहले तो चुनाव आयोग को बहुत बहुत बधाई कि आप लोग पूरी कंप्लीट टीम हो गए हैं दोनों चुनाव आयुक्तों को, और इस बड़ी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस के माध्यम से हम लोग का वास्ता हो रहा है. हमारा सवाल ये है कि ये तो हमें अंदाजा था कि जम्मू और कश्मीर में विधानसभा के चुनाव नहीं होंगे इस बार, लेकिन ऐसा क्यों किया है? हालांकि आपके पास वक्त है, कोर्ट ने भी आपको वक्त दिया है. जम्मू कश्मीर में विधानसभा चुनाव न कराए जाने की क्या वजहें हैं?
Yeah, the gentleman. Yeah, give it to him. Yes.
Very.
Sir, my name is T.N. Ashok. I used to be former editor of PTI. I also write a lot of political articles from New York. So I just wanted to know, I was just following the Federal Election Commission of the US, which publishes on its website the amount of money raised by presidential candidates. Like, say, it has just come out only yesterday. Biden has raised about $106 million. Trump has raised $88 million. Nikki Haley has raised about $48 million. And Vivek Ramaswamy has raised about $24 million. Is it possible for the Election Commission of India to publish such kind of details of not the candidates, but the parties? How much have they raised for the 2024 elections?
Yeah, thank you. CC will take questions.
Now let me answer these questions first. Very critical, very important questions. What are in everybody's discussion during this time, and it is necessary that one clears the stand on that. So first of all, I must congratulate that you have calculated it's 544, not 543. I never guessed that anybody would so quickly calculate this. कि ये 543 सीट हैं तो 544 टोटल में कैसे आ गई. एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी में 2 बार इलेक्शन होंगे, विच इज इन मणिपुर, तो वो 2 बार काउंट हो रहा है, इसलिए 544 से. सो दिस इज द फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ योर्स. लेट मी कम टू मिस्टर प्रभु. You asked the questions on totalizer. I entirely agree with you that booth-wise result मालूम होने से, किस बूथ पर किसने किसको कितना वोट दिया ये जानने से, it's not a best possible situation in the country. We fully agree with this, and therefore we brought totalizer. The totalizer was an instrument कि जैसे एक राउंड में 14 टेबल पर काउंटिंग हो रही है, तो 14 मशीन्स को एक साथ जोड़ दीजिए और 14 का रिजल्ट एक साथ आएगा, तो कम से कम इतना पता नहीं लगेगा. लेकिन महाशय, यहां तो एक ही मशीन के रिजल्ट पे भरोसा नहीं हो रहा. मैं 14 जोड़ दूंगा तो लोग बोलेंगे पता नहीं क्या कर दिया. लेट द पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम मैच्योर इटसेल्फ. The need is to introduce totalizer. We are ready to introduce it. Technology is ready. But let one has to work in the entire landscape. Let that be matured further. We prepared the machine to take votes of the migrant workers remote voting. The prototype is ready. Machine can take 72 polling assemblies together. That's a step towards remote voting. We are also ready at some stage for remote voting through electronically, through blockchains and all. But let such things take time to assimilate, to adjust. एक समय होता है हर idea का. So perhaps the time for this idea has not come. It is a little premature. But yes, it can tackle that ill. About my friend you asked. Mr. Arun was a very, very distinguished member of our team. And I thoroughly enjoyed working with him all the time. But in every institution, somebody will have to be given the personal space. And I'm sure the personal space should not be touched, and one should not be insensitive to ask personal questions. If he had personal reasons, it's fine, you must respect it. In the commission, let me make it clear to everybody. As you said, disclose, disclose, disclose. We also have another principle: participate, participate, participate. Involve all political parties. So in the commission, we have a very sound tradition, not today, of large, and I must thank this to my predecessors, worthy predecessors. Whatever we are today, it is because of them. And that's one tradition in the commission, that dissent within commission is encouraged. Within 4 walls of ECM, the commission room, which we call, it's a round room. Because it's such a complicated exercise in the world, 3 minds are always better than 1. We discuss, we sleep over issues, we take time, we assimilate. And हमेशा एक उसमें कहावत है ना, फिर मुझे याद आ गया वैसे ही, निंदक न्यारे राखिए. आसपास रखने चाहिए जो लोग आपको चैलेंज कर सकें. सो कमीशन में बहुत ट्रेडिशन है, वो हमेशा होता रहा है और होते रहना चाहिए. सो दैट्स द आंसर विच आई वांटेड टू गिव यू. जम्मू कश्मीर असेंबली इलेक्शंस क्यों नहीं हमने कराए, ये आपने एक प्रश्न पूछा. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है नीरज जी आपका. हम बहुत कॉन्शियस हैं इस बात से, और बीच बीच में आरोप भी लगते रहते हैं. हम वहाँ गए थे, तब भी हमसे लोगों ने कहा कि हमें तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाना पड़ा आपसे क्या आपको कहलवाने के लिए कि इलेक्शन कराइए, और आप क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं. तो पहली बात, आपने इतने समय से क्यों नहीं किया. तो पहली बात मैं सबके सामने ये इसको स्पष्ट करना चाहता हूँ कि जम्मू एंड कश्मीर रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक्ट वाज पास्ड इन 2019. ये सबको विदित है कि 2019 में जम्मू कश्मीर रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक्ट पास हुआ. उसमें जम्मू कश्मीर की असेंबली में 107 सीटों का प्रावधान किया गया. उस 107 में से 24 सीटें रिजर्व थीं पाक ऑक्यूपाइड J&K की, बची 83. 83 में से 7 रिजर्व थी एससी के लिए और एसटी के लिए कोई रिजर्वेशन नहीं था, राइट। 2022 में उसके बाद डिलिमिटेशन कमीशन आया और उसकी रिपोर्ट्स को एक्सेप्ट करके नोटिफाई किया गया। उसने इन सीटों की संख्या में परिवर्तन कर दिया। तो अनदर एक्ट चेंज दिस नंबर ऑफ सीट्स। क्या हो गया, 107 से बढ़ के 114 हो गई, 24 उसमें पाक ऑक्यूपाइड जेके की रही, 90 बची, तो 83 से बढ़ के 90 हो गई और 9 सीट एसटी के लिए रिजर्व कर दी गई। ये नया फीचर क्रिएट हो गया। और साथ ही साथ 2 सीट माइग्रेंट्स के लिए रिजर्व कर दी गई, जिसमें से 1 वुमेन की थी। और उसके बाद 1 सीट का नॉमिनेशन अलाउ किया गया, जो कि पीओके से डिस्प्लेस्ड लोग जो इंडिया में हैं उनके लिए वो रिजर्व की जाएगी। और ये सारे, जिसका मतलब reorganization act and delimitation act were not in sync, and therefore there was no occasion for the commission to conduct the election till that happens. When did that happen? That happened in December 2023 by amendment in the J&K reorganization act. तो हमारा मीटर कब से चालू हुआ है? दिसंबर 2023 से मीटर चालू हुआ है चुनाव कराने का। असेंबली और पार्लियामेंट में चुनाव कराने के लिए हम J&K के सभी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज ने हमसे कहा, ऑल, कि आप हमारा चुनाव पार्लियामेंट के साथ करेंगे। वी रेस्पेक्ट दैट, और हम समझते हैं कि हमारी ड्यूटी है हम उसे कराएं। सारी एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव मशीनरी ने टुगेदर एक स्वर में कहा कि सर हम एक साथ नहीं करा सकते। हमने पूछा क्यों, तो उनका आंसर था कि जब असेंबली कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी के चुनाव साथ साथ में होंगे तो एक असेंबली में लगभग 10 से 12 कैंडिडेट खड़े होंगे। सो 90 इंटू 12 करीब 1000 कैंडिडेट हो गए। और J&K में सिक्योरिटी की वजह से हर कैंडिडेट को कम से कम 2 सेक्शन फोर्स प्रोवाइड करनी पड़ती है। 2 सेक्शन फोर्स का मतलब हो गया कि हमें करीब 1000 के बीच में 450-500 लोगों की कंपनीज की जरूरत और एक्स्ट्रा पड़ेगी। वो इतने बड़े देश में इस समय में सिक्योरिटी रीजंस में प्रोवाइड नहीं था। बट वी स्टैंड कमिटेड कि हम जैसे ही ये चुनाव खत्म होते हैं उसके तुरंत बाद, क्योंकि फोर्सेस की हमारे पास अवेलेबिलिटी हो जाएगी, हम चुनाव जल्दी से जल्दी वहां कराएंगे। लास्ट क्वेश्चन अगेन, इलेक्ट्रल बॉन्ड्स एंड चुनावी चंदा। और जो somebody asked from this side as to how the disclosures can be made through the political parties as to how much they collected. So as regards electoral bonds, Commission has always been in favor of transparency right from the stage when we submitted our stand in the Honorable Supreme Court. Again, in a democracy, there is no scope for hiding things. Democracy is all about making everybody know, aware, transparency, information. It must be shared. We are all for it. So this is the first part of the entire exercise. It must be known. The country has to now also ask and find solutions to an institutional mechanism where the donor's privacy is also considered, is a point in question. We have made it compulsory for all political parties to make the contributions they are receiving. The answer to this side as to the declarations are made on the donations. Every political party is required to, under the guidelines, to make declaration to us on the contributions they receive. Also in the annual accounts, how much they have collected, how much they have spent. Also, after every election, they are supposed to give us an account of what they spent in that particular election. Supposing assembly election has taken place, we have contested, we have spent so much. And we publish it on the website of the Commission for everybody to know what is happening. And this we have now made digital. But the unaccounted money which is used in the elections, on which during the elections we are very particular to control it. But how do we also control the donations in the unaccounted form is something which the entire nation has to work together. How the donors' privacy is also protected. He is not harassed. How it is channelized. How it is more and more white. In the digital age, there must be almost no scope. It must be a very, very less cash economy. I am speaking from my old finance days, but it must be very, very less cash economy, and therefore one has to think of it, and I am sure some better system will evolve where it becomes like that. Yes.
So should we take
Last
another round?
round.
Yes,
Last
sir.
round.
Last round of questions. The lady at the back. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. This is Ritika from the Indian Express.
You're not audible. Yeah.
Sorry. Good evening, sir. This is Ritika Chopra from the Indian Express. I have a question regarding Manipur. There's been this huge displacement of people on account of the ethnic strife. There are people who've been displaced living in relief camps and haven't come back home. What steps are is the Commission taking to ensure that people actually turn out to vote in their respective constituencies? And secondly, sir, as far as the disclosure of data with regard to electoral bonds is concerned, was the Commission expecting SBI to also share data pertaining to the unique bond number? Because what you got was just date of purchase, name and amount, and party name, date of redemption and amount.
Can you introduce yourself?
This is Ritika Chopra from the Indian Express. Thank you.
Okay. The gentleman in that orange shirt there. Yeah, please.
मैं कृष्णमोहन शर्मा भारत एक्सप्रेस से मेरे दो सवाल हैं जिस मुहिम में आप लगे हुए हैं कि वोटिंग परसेंटेज बढ़े.
To one question. We don't have time.
Yeah, simple question. एक क्वेश्चन सर कि क्या वो समय आएगा हमारे देश में कि 12वीं का बच्चा जब पास हो तो उसको साथ साथ वोटर आई कार्ड मिल जाएगा? और दूसरा सवाल एक ये है कि क्या हमारे देश में मैंडेटरी वोटिंग हो पाएगी कभी?
The lady in the light blue shirt, last row. Yeah.
Sir, this side Harsha from Republic TV. I have two questions. First one, opposition parties have accused Election Commission of being biased when it comes to action against hate speeches. While you have said that adequate measures have been taken, but how is it different from the last time? And so second question is precisely about two states, West Bengal and Manipur. Both these states have witnessed immense violence last year. One during Panchayat election and other one with ethnic clashes. How Election Commission is ensuring safe and peaceful election in the booths this time?
Okay, the gentleman in the front. Idhar hai ji, inko.
Here, I'm George Kalivaril from Deepika Malayalam Daily. Mine is a half question and a request also. There are, why can't you think of giving, giving a ballot vote, voting for journalists who work in other, go for vote reporting. Like me, I lost at least 5 parliament elections because I was covering the elections in the north. My vote is in Kerala.
The gentleman in the orange shirt, that's the last question. Piche. Last but one row mein hai. That's the last question.
Coming.
Go ahead.
Yes.
संजय शर्मा आज तक से हूँ मैं. मेरा एक सवाल तो ये है कि निर्वाचन आयोग ने बहुत मार्मिक और बहुत व्यावहारिक अपील की है राजनेताओं से कि वो नफरत के बाजार में मोहब्बत की दुकान खोलें. तो इसकी कितनी अपील का असर लग रहा है कि वो कर पाएंगे? और दूसरा ये कि इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड्स में अगली स्कीम किस तरह से इसको और पारदर्शी बनाया जा सकता है? क्या आयोग के पास भी ऐसा कोई इंतजाम है क्या?
Yes.
नाउ उनका भी एक ले लीजिए, उनका भी.
उनको दे दीजिए. Give it to him.
लीजिए.
You are biased. You can't do that.
लीजिए.
I am Professor D.S. Agrawal and I am a nominee of राष्ट्रपति 2012. उस समय मैंने प्रणब मुखर्जी का नॉमिनेशन कैंसिल कराया था, तब ये प्रॉमिस किया था. सवाल है तब ये प्रॉमिस किया था कि एमपीज की जगह वोटर प्रपोजर होंगे, आपने अभी तक अमेंडमेंट नहीं किया। दूसरी बात ये है कि आप जो डीएम होता है, मैं बनारसी चुनाव लड़ा, उसने 3 बार मेरा इलेक्शन नॉमिनेशन कैंसिल कर दिया बायस्ड, लेकिन मैंने चौथी बार पास कराया। तो डीएम को आप इतनी पावर देंगे कि किसी का भी नॉमिनेशन कैंसिल कर देगा बैलेट को, या आप अमेंडमेंट करिए और इसमें अमेंडमेंट करिए। और ये जो खड़े होते हैं ऐसे लोग खड़ा मत होने दीजिए कि बायस करते हैं।
ऐसे आप नहीं बोल सकते, नहीं ऐसे नहीं बोल सकते, ये इस तरीके की चीज आप यहां नहीं बोल सकते। अच्छा ठीक है, नाउ लेट मी टेक दीज क्वेश्चंस। 12वीं क्लास के बच्चे के बारे में आपने पूछा एक प्रश्न। 12वीं क्लास के बच्चे को जैसे ही उसकी एज पूरी हो उसको वोटर कार्ड मिल जाए, इसकी तैयारी हम कर रहे हैं, एडवांस एप्लीकेशन लेके, ऐसा जरूर होना चाहिए। अबाउट मणिपुर, question was asked about Manipur, what we will do. There are persons who are displaced, who are in the camps. We have drawn a scheme. We have drawn a scheme which we have notified. That scheme is notified to allow the voters in the camp to vote from the camp. जैसे माइग्रेंट्स के लिए JNK में वो स्कीम है, ऐसे ही यहाँ पर भी उस स्कीम को लागू किया गया है, एंड द वोटर्स वुड बी अलाउड इन द रेस्पेक्टिव कैंप्स फ्रॉम द लोअर कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी टू द हायर एंड हायर टू द लोअर. बट माई अपील to the voters is that let us decide through the ballot peacefully by participating in these elections. We'll make the arrangements. So, postal ballot तो अवेलेबल है प्रेस को, हैं? हम इशू कर सकते हैं, ये हम उपलब्ध कराएंगे. चलिए, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to the end of this press conference. I would like to thank ECI administration, PIB, protocol, and Vigyan Bhavan team for the excellent arrangements. Thank you, sir.
If you want to understand China, you must understand Tibet. If you don't understand Tibet, you will never understand China. China occupied our country, brutalized our people, killed. Around 1 million Tibetans died. His Holiness was 23 years old when finally he decided to flee because, Chinese were bombing and killing hundreds and thousands of people. India has been the best host that Tibetans could have. China is an expansionist empire. So 60% of present-day China, all occupied. China has to make sure that there is no potential number 2, because if there is actual war between China and America, right, if they start destroying each other, India has a chance to shine. And Xi Jinping, just recently, he has told generals, not just one time, at least a dozen times, prepare yourself for war. According to recent Biden-Xi Jinping's meeting, there was a leaked document where Xi Jinping apparently told Biden, saying, hey, we have a plan to take over Taiwan. Only thing we have not decided is the date. So your Air Force general says that it will be in 2025, and the Pacific commander says in 2027. They're wrong.
Namaste, Jai Hind. You're watching or listening to the ANI podcast with Smita Prakash. Today the topic for discussion is Tibet and China. To explain this to us, we have in our studio former Prime Minister of Tibet in exile, Lobsang Sangay. Lobsang Sangye is the first non-monk person in exile from Tibet to have held that post. His father was a monk who fled Tibet in 1959, the same year as the Dalai Lama. Sangye was born in a refugee camp in India, but more about him in this conversation. Mr. Sangye, thank you so much for being part of the podcast. I want to talk a lot about China, Tibet, and the Indian situation in this, historically and contemporary. But before that, I want to show a short primer for people who don't understand this complex situation a little bit. I'm sure people who have a background in international relations know a lot about this, have read it, have probably experienced the situation, those who came in, those who are refugees and are watching this podcast. Especially those who live in America like you do. But still, I think for the layman, it is little important to understand the complex situation because it really is complex because there's so much of historical context to the current situation. So here's a short primer for those who don't know much about Tibet. Tibet came under the control of PRC or the People's Republic of China in 1951, and despite several minor attempts at uprising, the Chinese military completely controlled Tibet. There is a Tibetan government in exile based in Dharamsala in Himachal Pradesh, India, which came into being in 2011. In 1963, the 14th Dalai Lama, who was in exile in India, promulgated the Constitution of Tibet, and he became the permanent head of state of Tibet. In 1974, he rejected calls for Tibetan independence and he became the permanent head of the Tibetan administration and the executive functions for Tibetans in exile in 1991. In 2005, he accepted that Tibet is a part of China and Tibetan culture and Buddhism are part of Chinese culture. In 2011, by the time he was 71 years of age, the Dalai Lama decided not to assume any political and administrative authority. The Charter of Tibetans in Exile was updated, and in 2017, the Dalai Lama restated that Tibet does not seek independence from China but seeks development. Mr. Sangye, we will get into the situation of Tibet and the Dalai Lama's position regarding this. But first, let's begin with your story because I need to explain to my viewers why I am asking you to explain the entire Tibetan situation. When did you come to India as a refugee? When did your father come here? We need to speak a little bit about that before we get into the entire Tibetan situation.
Thank you. Good to be on your show. I watch your show. It's very popular. So Smita-ji, thanks for hosting me here. Yes, we always say India has been the best host that Tibetans could have, because I'm writing a book on how to set up and run democratic government exile. Mm-hmm. And whenever exile community come, host country is very, very important. It determines your outcome as well. We can discuss that later. And then, my parents fled Tibet in 1959 with His Holiness the Lama, and they settled in a place called Lamahata in Darjeeling. There's a small place in a village called Lamahata Basti. So that's where I grew up.
How many days did it take for your parents to walk from wherever they were into Darjeeling?
Now then, two separate, families, so two separate stories.
Oh, they were not married?
No, inside Tibet, no.
Oh.
They met
Later.
in Darjeeling. Yes.
Okay.
So my father was a monk in a place called Lithang Monastery. So Lithang Monastery happens to be the first monastery to be bombarded and destroyed in 1957 on. Then many of the monks had to flee. And then they went to Lhasa, and they formed this guerrilla group called Four Rivers, Six Ranges, Yushigandruk. And from my father's side, except for him, all the siblings were left behind.
Oh.
And then he joined this guerrilla force, which escorted and provided security for his solid escape from Tibet all the way to India. So my father was, he was also what they call corporal master, who was in charge of arms, ammunitions, and food supplies, things like that.
This is when there was an armed insurrection. It was not a peaceful moment, a peaceful struggle in those years.
Not at all. It was to defend our, fatherland, and defend our monastery, defend our faith. They were, in fact, the other name for this group was Defender of Faith, because the first thing the Communist Party, of China, especially People's Liberation Army, did was destroy our monasteries.
Yeah.
So they say, they are the destroyer of our faith, and we must defend our faith. Hence, many monks joined the guerrilla group.
And your father's name?
My father's name is Kesang Chodak. Yeah, he passed away in 2004. And because he was corporal master, he was, all over the places to supply arms, ammunition, things like that.
So you were telling me about your dad.
Yes.
And he was a corporal master, and he was part of the military, should I say, uprising or defending or whatever that they did, but it got crushed. And then they ran from there, right?
Yes. Because, when Tibet was independent country, we barely had 2,000-3,000 military personnel.
Standing army.
And then maybe additional 2,000-3,000 militia. That's all we had. And then the guerrillas, right, the Tibetans, like our father and so many volunteered. At most, it crossed, 10, 20,000 maybe, And then the Chinese brought like around 100,000 veterans of Korean War. So 1 lakh against 20, 30,000, there's no competition, right? Yeah. So, yes, but they fought very bravely, and they defeated some of the, Chinese platoons, so they fought very bravely. But then what they managed to do was secure His Holiness escape from, Tibet to India, along with His Holiness personal bodyguards and, Tibetan military as well.
Yeah.
So that was his contribution. But then, even though I said he was, he was a monk, he was also doing part business. That gets a little complicated. So he had traveled to India before.
Okay.
But
he came with Dalai Lama.
He came, yes.
So I have to interrupt you here. I took a picture of you with that photograph in our lobby. Now, I have a little story to tell before we go forward. So the chairman of ANI was covering the Dalai Lama coming in at that stage.
Oh.
Yes. So those pictures, that picture which you saw, so he was covering, and there were like 3-4 other photographers.
Yes.
So they were told that this is where the Dalai Lama will be coming in.
Yeah.
So he was working for something called the Viz News, which then got bought over by today's Reuters. So when he was taking the picture, he took the picture of the Dalai Lama walking in with some other monks. And along with that, the AP photographer, Associated Press, he took the picture too. Now, the Associated Press fed the picture immediately.
Oh.
Our pictures went in about, feeding a picture was also a complicated task. If you recall, at that time, you had to reach a post office, and you had to... So the picture was fed. Now, AP got the photograph first, right, in London. So they got the picture, and they just looked at the picture and said, what have you fed? The Dalai Lama doesn't have a beard. What you have sent is a picture of a monk who has a beard. This is not the Dalai Lama.
They got the wrong picture.
They got the wrong picture.
Oh.
So the AP photography, you see, you're talking about an age where not much was available on the Dalai Lama,
true.
right?
Yeah.
So it was hard to figure out which one is the Dalai Lama, because there's so many monks who were coming in. So many, in the sense of over a dozen of them, and they were all in the same attire. So even though the parent of ANI organization had the picture, he had the correct picture, he was a couple of minutes late, but because the AP photographer got the wrong picture, we broke the story.
Oh. So it's a long story. We have seen that picture over and over again.
Correct. So that is an ANI picture, or rather it's now a Reuters picture, which was originally a Viz News picture shot by the chairman of ANI.
My goodness.
Yeah, that's the history.
Oh, so ANI can take full credit. And
but I'm just saying,
congratulations to the chairman who got the photograph of the decade at that time.
Yeah. So at that time, it was like there were so many coming in and nobody knew for certain. But what he tells us is that it was a historic moment. when it was happening, because nobody knew how this is going to go forward.
Yes.
Because you see, it was like China might take an aggressive posture now that the Dalai Lama has come in. And that anxiety continued for years together.
Yeah. Even the escape.
From there, yes.
It was called The Great Escape, right?
Yeah.
It was featured on the front page of the Time magazine.
Yeah.
It took for His Holiness around 14 days to cross from Lhasa all the way to the border of Arunachal Pradesh. So that's where me and my younger brother, we are going to Tawang, into the border, to retrack the steps and the movement of, His Holiness Dalai Lama and our late father, how they came to India. Now, that was a very painful story, because His Holiness was 23 years old when finally he decided to flee, because, Chinese were bombing and killing hundreds and thousands of people in eastern part of Tibet. That's Amdo and Kham area, where my father's birthplace, and another province where His Holiness Dalai Lama was born. So it's very painful. So His Holiness, there's he personally told me, it's also written in his autobiography. On the final day, he, goes round his room 3 times, praying that I will come back to his residence. And then, he disguises himself as a lay person, and then escapes through, because there are thousands of people protesting and guarding him, telling him, you should not go to the Chinese camp. Chinese military camp was inviting him for sure. And then he disguises himself, rides on a horse, and, goes through where thousands of Tibetans were, and then escapes through. And then, I'm cutting the story short, but then finally when he climbs a hill, the person who was, taking the horse of His Holiness tells His Holiness that this is the last spot from where you can see Lhasa, the capital city of Tibet, and your residence. And he gets off the horse and looks at his residence and the Lhasa capital city, and then prays that he come back. And then, then he will be met by 2 of the Shishuganduk guerrillas who were there to escort him. And immediately he asked them, what are your names? One said, Tempa Tharke. In Tibetan means the Dharma will spread. Right? And what about others are Kunga something. Kunga means, treasure. And then you say, wow, so, it's good that 2 people I'm meeting. Of course, he is escorted by his own entourage, but now 2 guerrillas were coming there. One is the Dharma will spread. That's a good sign. And then Temba Thage, so we won't be, bad as far as money is also concerned. And then, he rides the horse and treks over 13 days, and in between, he has, it is a very difficult journey, right? Riding on a horse. And then at one time, it's so difficult that he had to get zo, which is a mixture of yak and a cow, because they walk very smoothly up the hill down. So, and then His Holiness, as he comes to the border, and then, he told me, he felt some sense of relief.
This is border between Tibet and India.
At that time.
Yeah.
So, on the one hand, right, I mean, you are a leader of Tibet, and then you're escaping. And then, in few times, actually, Chinese fighter planes, circulate around,
By this time, has the word got around that he's no longer in Lhasa?
Yes. After a few days, because, he left on the midnight of March 17th, and he reaches Bumla, Tawang area, on March 31st.
Tawang in India, Arunachal.
Tawang in
okay.
Arunachal Pradesh,
Yeah, this is just, I'm just locating the places because there are some expat viewers who may not know the geography of this area. So I just explaining.
That's true. So, and then he says, as he sees the Indian, they were not prepared also, because another interesting part is that His Holiness was escorted by 2 CIA-trained guerrillas who were equipped in sending messages. It's more like telegraph, but not advanced, all the way to Washington, D.C.
Again, a little explainer for viewers who don't know that right from right from the time of British India days, Tibetans were trained in guerrilla warfare, and then even by Americans in the 1950s, they were trained. Tibetans were trained in guerrilla warfare in Nepal area, and then of course they were there in Tibet after that. Yeah, sorry.
Yes, in Nepal area, and that's later.
That
but
came
they
in
were
the-
trained.
yeah,
They
in
were
Tibet.
trained in 1956 on. They were trained in Camp Held in Colorado,
Okay.
Okinawa Island.
Yeah, Japan again.
And
yeah.
yes, and they were parachuted to
Into-
Tibet, and these people used to inform. So Great Escape, everybody like was wondering where is Dalai Lama. The rumor is that he's no more, because then the Chinese started bombarding even his residence. So fortunately, he escaped. And then President Eisenhower, being from a military background, who had participated in World War, especially in Pacific, region, so he was very interested. So every morning, he used to say, "Where is Dalai Lama today?" So he had this map, and he used to put a pin, right? So I think 4 or 5 days prior, Eisenhower called Prime Minister Nehru and said, His Holiness Dalai Lama is coming to India. Because there were also, speculation whether he will go to Burma, which
Yeah.
happens to a Buddhist country, or even Bhutan,
Yeah.
or Sikkim, or Thailand, but then His Holiness did divination, and they all decided to come to India, in the land, holy land of India, right, for us, is very special. And then, then India sent the welcoming group, and then that's the photograph.
So this welcoming group which was sent, which I have heard, which Mr. Prakash tells us, is that they kept moving them from different areas, so that nobody knows exactly from where he's coming. And even after coming, he was first acclimatized and kept in a tent. I don't know whether that is what your father told you, but I believe there was a lot of surreptitious activity which was done because there was security involved. So the Indian journalists, who had arrived, which included some Indians, some Americans who were shooting, were moved again and again, so that nobody really knows what they are shooting, when the Dalai Lama will come, how many will be with the Dalai Lama, if at all he will come, today, tomorrow, day after. So there was a lot of that movement which was happening.
I'm sure it's all very likely, because the communication is not as fast and
Correct.
Efficient as now, and we have to do all this under secrecy, because
Yeah.
you also didn't know the movement of Chinese troops.
Chinese, yes.
And the guerrillas, many of the Tibetan guerrillas who escorted him, many of them returned back to fight. So the His Holiness crossed over, and he says he felt relieved, Then he was just like to see, and there were like few menons and others, familiar faces, right? He's like, oh, I'm safe now, And then he came to India, and then the famous photograph by the chairman of ANI, and he gives this press conference at Tejpur, and then, comes down to live in Mussoorie in Birla House, right? And after a few months, Indian government suggested that His Holiness and Tibetans, is encouraged, don't live in Mussoorie, but choose another place, because Mussoorie is a popular tourist spot, and a lot of people could come and come to know. And then Tibetan delegation goes to Dharamsala, and then the head of the delegation comes back and says the water of Dharamsala is it tastes better than milk of Mussoorie. So that convinced them. So I don't know whether I've lived in Dharamsala for 10 years. Water tastes good, but not as good as milk of Mussoorie.
Also, it's prophetic, isn't it, that the guerrilla warrior who was with him was his dharma.
Yes.
And you found Dharamsala.
Yes.
There's maybe some act of God in that, who knows. But let's come back to your father now.
Again,
sorry.
It's just a very good point. Lhasa means land of God, and we are in Dharamsala, a land of spirituality. So yes, in a way, it's karmic. It's
Karmic,
yes, definitely.
So your father, let's get to your father and your mother.
My father, my father, he joined guerrilla, and he fought several times, and he was, he helped the founder or the leader of guerrilla. He was escorting him. and then helped him and served him quite well. So even after he came back to Darjeeling, the head of the guerrilla, Anu Gombutashi, right? He had like several bullets in his body, literally.
Okay.
So my father used to escort him to Calcutta to do the surgery and remove bullets.
Shot by the Chinese, obviously.
Yes, sir, shot by the
PRC.
Chinese. Yes.
Yeah.
And then later he went to, London, the head of the guerrilla, but my father didn't join him. And then still, it's believed that there is still, some shrapnels and some remains of bullets in his body. And my father then went to live in a place called Lamahata Basti. So this guerrilla group formed one settlement. And then
Where was this?
It's between Kalimpong and Darjeeling.
Okay.
Now Lamahata Basti has become a tourist spot. They're like,
Okay.
a lot of, what do you call it, live-in,
Okay.
So all the villages have opened their houses where they have
Homestays.
Homestays.
Huh.
And that's where my father met my mother.
She had come as a refugee too.
Yes, she has come as refugees. Now, my mother's separate story. She was very young, right? I think she was barely 17. And then while crossing, so her, except for one, all the family members, including parents, managed to escape.
Okay.
Because they are more closer to India. But then one day, my mother had, they were running short of food. So they were going to forest and collect foods, right? So fell down the cliff and broke her leg. Literally, huh? So I was told 7 or 10 people had to, bring ropes and pull her out, somehow managed. But she was so badly injured that the family had to decide whether to stay till she heals, run short of food and die of starvation potentially, or carry on. So the family ultimately, decided to leave them behind and then go ahead. It's like, choice of 20 people survival,
Yeah.
or, 17 at that time. I mean, they were very strong-willed, right?
Migration families, the traumas that they go through.
The choice they had to make. And
Yeah.
then my mother was left with another sister. So they stayed, then they managed to cross over to Arunachal. And then they spent 2 years there in refugee camps, right? And the 80,000 Tibetans came eventually, from Sikkim, Bhutan, but mainly from Arunachal area. So they were there. And then, they were like,
Did they have papers with them? How did 80,000 people just walk across? Were there any checks? Or was India welcoming Tibetan refugees? So long as you said you were from Tibet, were they welcoming them?
They were, the policy was to welcome them. So that's very good, right, at that time. So, but then, both sides were unprepared, right? They were unprepared to leave their home. And if you, trek across Himalayan mountains, can you imagine month of
Arduous
March?
work, yes.
Very cold, freezing, snow. And then how many died on the way, right? But then India side also, they didn't know how many were crossing, right?
Yeah.
So there was, place where they had to register.
So your mother came in what, mid-60s?
No, she crossed in, late 59 itself.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but she managed to come. But she had to stay in Arunachal Pradesh for 2 more years with other in the refugee camps because I'm sure the Indian government was so busy, identifying and registering, facilitating others. They had no means of, facilities to, for family reunion, right?
So what did your parents have? Did they have some kind of an ID or something? Like today we have Aadhaar card and all.
No, nothing. They just have Tibetan.
They just said, I'm Tibetan.
I'm Tibetan. And then, it's a matter of trust, right?
Right.
Because also, famously, the finance minister of Tibet, Shagapa, is written in his book also. In early 50s only, he famously wrote a letter to government of India saying that Chinese have already moved in, they're going to occupy our country. India should send troops and defend us.
Yes.
He said, at the moment, we barely have 80 troops, guarding the border of India and Tibet. all the way from Kashmir to Arunachal Pradesh. We are talking of 3,000 to 3,500 kilometers of land. We barely have 80 troops. If you don't support now, it will cost India more. So now we have 8 lakhs, troops, right?
Right, and we are talking about a period before the Chinese aggression on India, before the India-China war.
We can talk about it, how surreptitiously, by their sinister design, how India was fooled, with all the way from Simla Agreement, 1914, when final renewal was 1954, because India decided to renew the Simla Agreement, not with Lhasa, with Tibetan government, but decided to renew with Beijing. And then, then India said, we want this Panchshil. Then they, made that. It was trade agreement in 1914, and they changed that into Panchshil, and India said, now it's a great deal. We have a great agreement. Why not we, extend it for 25 years? You know what Chinese government said? He said, no, 5 years. And ultimately, they agreed to 8 years, if I'm not wrong. So 54 plus 5, 59, Tibet was invaded. 54 plus 4, age 62, India was invaded. So the plan of occupation of Tibet and invasion of India
was the actual plan behind Panchshil of China.
Yes.
But India saw Panchshil as the peace offering or the peace plan.
Yes, even famously claimed that term Panchshil is a Sanskrit word. So the term, is more or less coined by India. But I think China signed another Panchshil with Burma or Sri Lanka, just to take ownership, even the term Panchshil, right? So it was a peace agreement, but China has already planted the date or the year of invasion of Tibet and also of China. Now,
of India.
Now, interestingly, so when Chinese troops came to, Tibet, so Chinese Prime Minister Zhou Enlai came here, and China made the request to India. Said, look, we are facing trouble. We have to bring officers and troops. We need supplies. So to supply all the way from China to Tibet, there was only one road. It's taking a lot of time. If they could open the Calcutta port so that we can, supply from Shanghai to Calcutta port and then take it to Nathula Pass to Sikkim. Right? And India agreed, opened the port till 1962. So all the supplies, the food and, ammunitions, everything that was needed, supplied through Calcutta for the troops on the other side of Tibet to invade India in 1962.
It wasn't for the good of the Tibetan people.
Also not good for India,
No.
So,
yes, that is in hindsight. But at that time, they were Zhou Enlai sold it to Jawaharlal Nehru that it is for the good of the Tibetan people. That is why the supplies are going.
For the good of Tibetan people, but mainly for their officers and, Chinese officers, Chinese troops who were in Tibet. Right?
Who had crushed the movement in Tibet.
Not yet. It's, fully, not fully yet. But then 59 crushed. But then the Calcutta port opened. Now there's always a mystery. The Chinese troops came from Arunachal Pradesh all the way to the border of Assam. Right? But after a few months, they left. They could have stayed on. The question is why? One reason is that they ran out of supplies that they brought from Calcutta to Tibet, right? Because they could not provide supplies from all the way from China to Tibet. So the invasion of coming near Tezpur, right at the foothills of Assam, they came. And then after a few months, they leave. So, of course, there was internal tension as well, in internal factional politics, China as well. But other reason is they ran out of supplies. So by opening Calcutta port, they made easier for Chinese troops to crush Tibetans' rebellions, and also easier for them to, invade India in 1962.
And the India-China border came closer to India because of Tibet coming under. You've written about that. You've spoken about that.
Yes, they have redrawn this border all the time. So LAC is always on the Chinese side. Line of actual control from Chinese side. They keep moving.
Had Tibetan independence happened, or Tibet being a country on its own, the LAC would have been above that.
not just above, there was 80 troops, right? Free flowing, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we never felt to demarcate and defend things like that. In 1914, similar agreement between Tibetan Prime Minister and the British India at that time. So there was a choice to demarcate a border. One included Sona, which is above Tawang. One included Tawang, and one included less than Tawang. There were three choices, and then Tibetans agreed. He said, "Okay, we agree with this border, which makes Tawang part of India." So it was in fact British India was saying, "Hey, let's demarcate this border." So only demarcation of border. Based on similar agreement or the side agreement of the similar agreement, demarcated the border, and Tibet agreed to have Tawang as part of India.
I wanted to begin with your personal life. We'll go into that later.
Okay, yes.
Never mind. We'll go into that later because now that we've come into the geopolitical situation, so let's talk politics first and then go on to your personal life.
That's true. Before I go to the general thing. Let me at least give fairness to my mother also, who is in Boston with my younger brother.
Yeah, she spoke about my husband. He didn't speak about me.
So I just visited
mom and sons, right?
I know. I just visited where I was born, a place called Lama Ata. So finally, after 20 years, and I managed to spend good 3-4 hours walking the gullies of our basti. And visited the local gaddi, where you get chang, the local, and I had all the local dishes, So enjoying the memories of
you
our
were born
childhood.
there?
Yes, I was born there.
In a refugee camp?
Yes. And the same place where we went, where my mother had 2-3 cows only, so we'd milk her cows, and they used to sell her butter and cheese to the place.
Do you remember your early years
Of course.
You do?
Yeah.
What was, tell me, growing up in a refugee camp in India as a Tibetan, what were you taught by your parents about your identity and about the Indian identity? Because you were born an Indian.
Yes.
Right? You're ethnically Tibetan, but you're born an Indian. So you automatically become an Indian. How did those two identities sit with you?
So when you're young, you don't know, right? Your parents keep telling you you're Tibetan, how much they have suffered, sacrifices they have made. And I studied in Tibetan refugee school in Darjeeling, and all your teachers, staff members also remind you the same. But when you're in your basti, your neighbors are, Sharpas and Tamangs and Yolmus, Nepalese, So, they're your best friends. So when I was very young, my first language was Nepali language, right?
Correct.
And then during our school break, winter vacation for 2 months, I did the same thing like all the villagers did, So we used to go to forest, cut wood, bring home piles and piles. And then afternoon we go cut grass for our cows. In the evening help mother milk cows, And then help her stir milk to make butter. So, I did all the things. Early morning you get up, you don't have,
So what do your parents tell you at that stage that we are going to go back or there's going to be a freedom movement, you have to be part of the freedom movement? What are the lessons that parents were telling you? This I'm talking about now your late 60s, early 70s, I'm guessing?
68 I was born, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So in the 70s, there is still hope for the Tibetans that
Absolutely.
the uprising, there is, yeah.
Yeah, my father was addicted to All India Radio, right? He always listens. Always say, you don't understand, this. It was all, he always listened to what's happening, Soviet Union, what's happening America, what's happening India, China. So, this whole Cold War, he used to listen. And I was a naughty boy. What can you do, right? At night, in the evening, Dad listens. And when he's not around, I used to open the radio, and play. And in the evening, when it doesn't work, he used to slap me and beat me up, things like that. But he's always like, America should beat Soviet Union and we go back, we get our country, So he had that passion. And then, when I was growing up also, he used to find me like hopeless, softy teenager. You don't have the grit and guts to fight Chinese.
Because he had had guerrilla training, right?
Yeah. He used to say, I never opened my belt, for 2-3 weeks. Because you're always fighting and running and, you're guerrillas, you're always moving. So he used to have, tsampa with the butter in it and a bit of salt in it. And then that's all you eat, and then you get bit of water. And then you eat that dough and you carry your supplies, And then because you're constantly moving, he said, do you remember how many bullets fly by and how many? I said, if you see a Chinese troop, I know you are just softy, you run away, So when I finally got elected, as a Sikyong, my late uncle told me, I wish your father was here. Yeah. I became quite emotional, but I always wondered, my God, if my son is the Sikyong of Tibetan freedom movement, I think he will give up his hope or something. He never thought I'll be this tough, guerrilla fighter like him, Anyways, that's where I grew up. So yeah, I did everything that the village kids.
Politics was just not in your horizon when you were a student. You were in Delhi University, right?
Yeah, first in Tibetan schools, right? And all are refugees, all are poor. Because Tibetan school was under HRD. There's a program
Human
called
Resource Development of Government of India.
Government of India, and there's the society called CTSA, it's Central Tibetan School Administration. They used to run it. They used to subsidize the food and clothes. So we used to get one set of uniform and one bata shoes, right? Then because you're young, everybody's poor, right?
Yeah.
The young kids, they lose their barter shoes because they'll sell it in the market, the elder kids, right? And then we used to, walk around barefoot with chappals, things like that. And we get one dal and, very watery dal and rice for lunch. And then one tingmo and again dal for dinner. So if you can afford one chili or if luxury is if you can afford aludam is a luxury. So that's how we grew up, with barely nothing.
So politics was not in and freedom struggle was not in your horizon.
Everybody tells you, but you're young, you want to play. Even though we had nothing, but we were happy, like kids running around, playing. So, it was, I never, even I used to tell this to Tibetan young students also. At class 8, I had a desk mate, So he comes from, Bhutan, and his family, knew about politics. So he asked me, Lobsang, what's your ambition? And I said, what do you mean? What is ambition? You don't know what? I didn't know the word ambition. Class 8, okay? It's like, ambition means what you want to do in life. And I said, I have no idea. What do you want to do? He said, I want to study political science and I want to serve the Tibetan government. I said, where is it? It's in Dharamsala, that's where. And I want to be a minister. And I thought, that's a very good idea. I should do that. So that's the only time my deskmate told me about ambition and minister.
But tell me, did your parents' generation feel let down in a way that the Tibetan movement, independence movement became non-violent, and because it was non-violent, it didn't get the kind of attention, world attention in the 60s and in the 70s?
The one group of guerrillas remained in a place called Mustang in Nepal, supported by CIA, the late 60s. And early 70s when Kissinger went to China, Nixon went, China normalized the relationship, and that was disbanded. And then there was this obviously, issue. And then his Holiness also had, come off his age. He was 23, now he's 33.
Yeah.
And, then he started advocating, always believed in nonviolence and openly started advocating nonviolence. So some of the gurus were like, surprised, we should fight and all that. But the His Holiness wisely thought nonviolence is the way to go. So in a way that all this militia and guerrillas movement that we used to have stopped in early 70s. And then you're right, from 70s on, there was no attraction, no attention, no support, no media covered. And then it went on. And then only in mid-80s, as His Holiness started traveling, then, he started building up friends all over the world. Then he made a proposal It's called Strasbourg Proposal. And then 87, he made this proposal, the 5-point peace plan, Strasbourg Proposal, right? Then started getting attention. Then when he finally got Nobel Peace Prize, 1990, then I think he brought Tibet to the whole issue.
But was it easy to crush the Tibetan movement because it turned non-violent?
No, inside Tibet, because when Chinese, they brought 100,000, later more than that. Now, presently, they have anywhere from maybe several 100,000 Chinese troops are there. They're like Korean War veterans.
Yeah.
So there was, as I said, Tibetans, we barely had altogether maybe 20,000+, militias and volunteers, all that. So there was no chance.
Correct. But if you see that in perspective of today's conflicts which are happening with America jumping in and helping out countries or Europe or any of them, whatever you have seen, if there were democratic exercises, the way Taiwan, if I was to come, Taiwan is a whole new thing which we'll get into. Do you think that the Tibetans felt that let down that the Americans did not help out?
Absolutely, yes. So, some of the ex-guerrillas, they went to Camp Hell and Colorado, they got trained.
In Colorado, yeah.
Yeah, they all were thinking, America will really give us, really heavy arms and ammunitions, But they just gave them some, World War II, guns and things like that.
Not enough.
Not enough. So what America supplied, on the one hand, Tibetan guerrillas were grateful because given the fact that we had nothing, we were provided with something, but not enough at all.
So the footprint of China keeps increasing from the 50s and 60s.
Yes.
And it is done. It's not today that everybody talks about China's aggression.
Not at all.
And expansionist tendencies, which we talk about in the current age. It had started way back then. And your country was one of the first casualties.
Also, the America came to support Tibetans because of Korean War. Right? Because Korean War, Chinese were literally fighting against Americans, right? So they needed another front, distraction and nuisance. That's what they thought. That's why the supplies of arms and ammunition was also limited.
So once the war was over?
That's it. Had they supplied, fully, Tibetans had they fought, bravely, there was a chance that we could defend at least some parts of the territory. But then clearly it was not enough. But then in 1970-71, when Nixon went to China and cut off, he had like 8 points agreement with China, right?
Yeah.
One was to cut off Taiwan. Tibet was one of them. How many Tibetan guerrillas in Mustang in Nepal committed suicide, saying, my God, this, we just got betrayed. We thought we will keep getting these guns and supplies and we keep fighting Chinese. There's a new president, new policy. Now they want to have rapprochement with China. They want to normalize the relationship. There's a final, okay, this is the final set of supplies we have, and this is the one. We are not coming anymore. You're on your own. And then, we felt betrayed for sure.
And here are these bunch of guerrillas who have left their homes and hearth. They've left their families to fight a cause, and they have just been betrayed.
That's it.
And they committed suicide.
Several of them. And many of them came to Nepal, settled there, because they have reached the age where they could not even marry, right? They're in their those who were in their 20s and 30s could. Now they're in 40s and 50s,
But they never went across and crossed over to China. Or did they?
They did. Actually, in late 60s, the biggest cache of information of what was going on in China, the Cultural Revolution, right? It was disaster, famine, suicide, killings. The treasure trove of information was actually gotten by Tibetan guerrillas. There's crossover because there's a Xinjiang, which is Muslim majority, occupied territory in China. So that route there, and they take that route, and which comes through Tibet, they go all the way to Sichuan and Yunnan areas. So that's a highway. So Chinese troops were going back and forth. And Tibetan guerrillas from Nepal, they used to cross over into Tibet. And then finally, they used to raid some of those, the Chinese troops going back and forth. So finally, they got this treasure trove, and then even CIA said, "My God, through this material, now we know what kind of disaster that's going on in China during Cultural Revolution." So it was very helpful for.
So guerrilla warfare, and they were spies also at that. What a fabulous history, right?
Yeah,
They were spying on China.
Yeah, there were few CIA agents with the telegraph of all stations.
But they knew the language, right? And the facial, the features were matching, so they could infiltrate into Xinjiang.
Yeah, no, the Xinjiang Tibet highway, and then they could, and then raided. They got at that time, they say the most comprehensive information about China. That's
was
the
from
Tibetan
the ethnic Tibetans.
got it, yeah. And then they were rewarded too.
Okay.
But then in 1970, just cut them off, cut
So
loose.
I'm going to come back to your life too in between in the conversation so that people understand and, as to why I'm asking you about it, because you're not just a politician, you're somebody who has experienced several cultures, whether it is Tibetan culture, whether it is political Tibetan culture, whether it's ethno-political culture. You've experienced India, and then you go to the US to study further. So you go to Harvard, and you're there. You become an American citizen. So you have various exposure to various cultures. Tell me, at what point of time did you decide that I need to go back to my roots? I need to become a political voice for the Tibetan issue. At what point of time did that come to you?
No, there was never an inflection point as such. But then there was like a growing, sense that I should contribute. So then, when you're young, you start reading. Your parents constantly tell you, and then your teachers also constantly remind you of being Tibetan. And then, when I was at refugee school in Darjeeling. So I went to college, St. Joseph College. Then suddenly I felt, I was in Tibetan refugee school and I was among the majority. Suddenly you are a minority, among others, They were nice people, but suddenly identity, you're more aware, acute. Then we formed the student group.
Okay.
And I was...
At St. Joseph's.
But Tibetan student group of Darjeeling.
Okay, Darjeeling.
And then, so I was one of the executive members, right? Then you start speaking out more about Tibet and Tibetan people. Because now there is an audience, because there's Nepalese and others, they want to know.